listened to last week's episode.
I did.
But that's something I talked about. It's like, dude, opportunities become available to everybody in the world.
Yep.
Most people don't seize those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, sure, it might be uncomfortable. Sure, it comes with the unknown, but you walk through the door of opportunity and you don't know what's on the other side of that. And sometimes there might be nothing on the other side of it, but more often than not, there's somebody that knows someone that has some expertise here or whatever the case may be. And I've found over the last 4 years, man, the network that I've built is priceless.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what led me to reach out to you, because I was sitting in the sauna, dude, just getting my session on, listening to your podcast, and that's exactly what you were talking about. These like windows and doors and jumping through them, having no idea what that opens up in for your life. And I was like, dude, that's exactly what I did. And I've been meaning for like, I've been following you since the beginning, dude. I was the guy at my agency who like shared your video with everybody. I was like, bro, this is the guy I went to the academy with my homie.
Wow.
And then, just time, and you just get busy, dude. And, stuff takes off. And, so that's on me for not reaching out, but
yeah, it's all good, man. And life's busy too.
Yeah.
And the thing is once you connect with someone, and this is living proof, we haven't talked in 8 or 9 years or something,
we
right?
went to the academy in what?
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
So 8 years. Yeah.
And it's, just homie vibes the second we sit down.
Yeah, bro, I'll give you a hug. And I was like, there he is.
But we didn't violate podcast protocol too bad. We only talked for a minute or two before we hit record.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the things you said. You said when we got to the police academy, we were both former military guys. You were an infantry officer.
Yep.
Ranger qualified. I was coming from the Ranger Regiment. And as soon as we sat down at the academy, everybody's sizing each other up. Who's who in the zoo.
Yep.
And we both knew that's one of the dudes that's legit.
Yeah.
And not to talk about our classmates in a disparaging manner, because as human beings, I think I got along with almost all of them.
Oh, dude, they're all great people.
Great people,
dude.
Right?
Great people. Yeah.
And I've come to the realization that the profession is full of great people, but a lot of those people I wouldn't want to get into a gunfight with.
Dude, and that's been my experience the past 7.5, 8 years.
And the thing is and again, like I love my wife dearly. I don't want her to go through a door with me.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And the profession has moved away from, I don't even want to say war fighters, man, because it's very different, right? Like I don't need you to be an infantryman pretending we're deploying to Afghanistan, but I do expect that you have the physical capabilities and the intestinal fortitude to be able to confront difficult and dangerous situations. And I don't know. I just don't think those aren't the men and women that are called to law enforcement anymore.
No, they're not.
And the ones that are those people that get called into law enforcement for those reasons, once they get there, it's kind of like, what's going on here?
Dude, that was just it. You get off field training, right? And you start like opening your eyes to what's going on. You're like, what's happening here? This is not what is all talked up to be. And, the experiences were just vastly different than what I was initially thought I was getting into.
Yeah, and that seems to be the overarching theme of most of my friends that are either in or have served in some capacity. So let's do this, dude. Let's take this from the beginning. You know how I like to do the show, because it sounds like you listen to it. Who you are, where you're from. We'll talk about your military service, because I always think that is a highlight of people's career that is very interesting to people. And then also, we're in a time where people are starting to get interested in military service again. So I always like to unpack that for listeners, and then we'll take the deep dive into your law enforcement career. And then what I'm most excited about, Monday was your last day.
Yeah, dude.
You officially
last
resigned.
day, man. Yeah, resigned.
Moving into entrepreneurship.
Yep. Started my first business 2 years ago.
And bro, that is the story that is going to resonate with listeners. I say it all the time on the show. I get hit up by first responders that want plan B, but they feel like they're stuck.
Yep.
And you're only stuck if you believe you're stuck.
Dude, I felt stuck for so long.
And exactly, bro. Because we're conditioned to be like, when you finally told your peers and your supervisors, like, hey, I'm walking away, I already know without even talking about it yet, there's people who are like, are you fucking nuts, bro? What are you doing?
Exactly.
You got a family, you got a fucking house, you got a mortgage. And it's like, that's all fear-based thinking. Fear-based thinking keeps you stuck in a low vibration.
Yep. Dude, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, let's just hit it, man. Talk about where you are, where you came from, who you are, and then we'll just have fun, bro.
Yeah, dude. So, grew up small town in Maine. I was actually born where I ended up kind of residing for most of my childhood, but my father's infantry guy too, so we bounced around a lot when I was a kid.
He was active duty when you were
active
growing
duty,
up.
82nd. So
Okay.
he jumped into Panama, served in Panama, went and fought in the first Gulf War, and so for the first 5 years of my life, I never really saw him. So my mom and I were bouncing around between military bases, staying with family, and then we eventually ended up back in Maine. And then he finished up his service and joined us back in Maine by like age 5.
To hit Panama and Desert Storm, that's kind of the lottery for the dudes that served in a basically peacetime military.
Mm-hmm. And he loved it. He loved the military. And the only reason, I mean, I've talked to him and I have a pretty strained relationship now. But we've talked about it kind of as we've built our relationship back in the past couple of years. And he never wanted to get out. He got out because of me and my mom and trying to raise a son. And
so like deep seated, like almost resentment because you took his passion away from him.
Yeah, and it came out in my childhood for sure.
Wow.
I understand that now. I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself and talked to the family and my sisters. I have 2 younger sisters, and there was a lot of deep-seated resentment that came out in anger. And as a kid, you don't know what it is or why it's coming out in that way.
Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, I called him a couple years ago and just randomly, and I was driving one night, and I was like, "Hey, I get it. I get it now." And he just started crying. I was like, "Thank you."
Wow.
Yeah. Like he was like, "Listen, they don't give you a playbook for being a father, and and he's like, man, I got out. Like all I ever wanted to be was a soldier. I was really good at it. I loved it. And I wanted to do a career in it. And then the next thing you know, you and your mother are in my life, and I want to raise a son and raise a family." And so he was like, "I made the choice to get out." And he had a very, very rough transition out. Took a job at the VA where he was laid off back in the early 90s, and never worked again after that. So I grew up with a mom who went to work every day, went back to school, got her master's degree while I was going to school, and she was raising 3 kids, and my dad stayed at home and didn't do much.
Was he dealing with mental health issues, PTS, or just the transition kind of fucked him up?
I don't know. I've never really sat down and chatted with him about it. But I think it was the transition, and I think there was probably some PTS type stuff. I mean, we've talked a little bit about his combat experience and some of the stuff that he went through. And I think that definitely, it's just like, dude, it's probably just like you and me, and the same experience I had coming back. You get over there and you come home and you're like, dude, none of this is fucking real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where are we living? You know what I mean?
Well, bro, and like that's something that I think is hard for people to even really conceptualize. It's like yesterday, because there was literally like people think that the government is this well-oiled machine. Bro, when another unit or another contract would come replace us, you might be on an operation in Ramadi on Wednesday morning, and you fly home Thursday, and Friday morning you're here in Lake Stevens getting Starbucks coffee. Yep. And it's like, what?
Yep.
Both of these exist
at the same time
the world simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it's a transition that fucks a lot of people up.
Yeah. No, and dude, that we talk about soldiers and PTS and all that stuff and why they struggle with all these mental health things when they come home. And I mean, I think I've kind of not figured it out, but I have a good grasp on it. And it's just exactly that, man. Like you go and you see how we're supposed to live as humans. And then, like you said, you get on a flight, and 11.5 hours, you're home. And the next thing you know, like me, I'm sitting in a grocery store with these ginormous people, and I'm looking down the cereal aisle, and I'm like, there's 40,000 choices of cereal here. Like yesterday, dude, I was choosing between an MRE or like eggs and whatever, like
a mermaid.
Yeah, dude, right?
Or an MRE.
Yeah, and so it's
and then the local populace actually has less choices.
Dude,
it's
right?
like, hey, we're eating goat and rice again.
Yeah, and they're trying to sell a watermelon for a couple dollars so they can go feed their family for a week. Yeah, dude, it's
well, and I also think not only is it like the traumas that you experienced, like everybody, those impact people in a vastly different manner. But one thing that I saw impact almost everybody was that lack of purpose, that lack of camaraderie, and you went from being someone that you're proud of, you feel like you're doing something important, and then in a moment that's all gone.
Completely gone.
And that's like exactly what your father went through.
Yep, exactly.
And I tell people all the time, and I don't know if this is a popular opinion or not, because our society always wants to put service members on a pedestal, right?
Yeah,
Like they're our best and brightest, and we're here to support them, and this is your veterans discount. Like, but the truth of trying to raise a family in that environment, it's very dysfunctional.
Oh, dude.
Do not, in my opinion, my last deployment is when Jenny told me she was pregnant with our first child, who's just turned 16 last weekend and got her license.
That's wild,
it's
dude.
nuts, right? But at the same time, it's like, okay, it's time to drop the bags of being a soldier and start to look into something else. And that's a tough transition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely think my father really struggled with that, coming home and not having that purpose. And same thing I kind of had, right? Like you get out and you're like, I'm just going to go try my hand at corporate America or the government or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're just instantly not happy. And you're like, this isn't it.
So when you saw your father being angry and having struggles with that transition, did you not connect any of those dots until later in life?
Yeah, man.
Because it sounds like you're like, I want to go be a soldier too.
Yeah. Yeah. That came, dude. I don't know how you feel about the world and universe. And I mean, I kind of do a little bit with how,
everything.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, dude. But I think it's honestly something you're kind of born with. I think growing up and seeing that and seeing him, he was my hero, as a kid. And, he would catch me like in his going through his duffel bags, like trying on his uniforms and his LBE and shit. And like, so I was 6 years old out like digging trenches and like with my BB gun, like setting up ambushes on cars on our road. And he was not having it. He was like, listen, this is not something you play with. This isn't something that you joke around with. But dude, it was in me, man. Like,
Did you shoot any of those cars?
I mean,
yeah. What's the statute of limitations on that?
I think we're good now. But yeah, no, me and my buddies, dude, we'd come over and we'd take those like little Daisy BB guns and we'd pump them up, man. And we'd just set up little ambushes on the road, play war in the back of our house and set up forts. And I mean, it was a really cool childhood. But again, he was not really super thrilled with me always being very interested in that type of work.
I wonder if that's because there was a part of him that knew he didn't want you to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even though he liked it and it gave him all those things we talked about, purpose and camaraderie. At the core of the military, there is a lot of dysfunction.
Yeah.
And a lot of alcoholism.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've experienced it, but you see what it takes away from you. It takes away your humanity a little bit.
Big time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
in the moment, while you're in it, you don't realize that.
Right. Yeah. No, you don't. But again, being a father and looking at your little son who's 7 years old trying on your war stuff that you just were wearing and, over in Iraq back in 91 or whatever.
Yeah.
And now you're like, dude, I know where that uniform's been. And now my son's wearing it and he's out there pretending to shoot imaginary people or whatever. Like, was probably a lot to kind of deal with. So it was really 9/11 for me was like the tipping, as everybody was back in the GWAT era, like seeing those Twin Towers. I remember we were in school and like, they all sat us in. They brought the TV on the big stand and they rolled it in and they're like, school was canceled. I had a football game that day that was canceled and I was super pissed about that.
You're like, I'm going to kill these fuckers.
Yeah, dude. No, really, dude. I was like sitting there and I was like, oh, dude, I don't know. From a kid, I was very patriotic.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of the way we were raised in the house. And
how old were you when that happened? Were you in high school?
I was in junior high. I had to have been like 6th or 7th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was young, but like, man, that left a massive impression on me. And then I remember coming home that day and my parents sitting me down and being like, this is going to change the course of history for you. Be ready. And this is a really big deal. And I remember being really young and be like, I don't really understand it, but I understand we were attacked and that they had killed a lot of people. And from there, it was just, it was like born even more into me. So, at a very young age, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get older. I'm going to join the military. I hadn't figured out exactly what path I was going to go. But dude, everybody in school knew it, man. Like I was an athlete. I played 3 different sports. I was the captain of 2 teams, but like I also played paintball on the side and like, dude,
so that it started with ambushing cars and you still, you fell in love with the tactics, shooting, moving, communicating.
Dude, we used to, yeah, exactly. We used to play paintball and we would go out and like everybody would want to pick me because I knew how to like suppress fire and how to like, do a feint or something and get around people.
You were reading 7-8 in the 6th grade.
not quite yet. No, but I had really had taken to it. Right. I mean, dude, growing up, like all I wanted to do was watch movies with my dad. Like you talk about like Braveheart and like Gladiator and all that. I mean, that was all I was into.
Well, dude, you've heard me say this too. Then it's interesting to me how young men are called to war.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 9/11 gave us a catalyst to be able to actually facilitate that need or that desire. But at least I was in the Ranger Regiment before 9/11.
Yeah.
Like that, whatever that desire is, already existed.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like, well, what is that? Why do young men want to go to war?
Dude, have you read John Eldritch? It's like Wild at Heart, I think is the name of the book.
It's very faith-based, right?
Yes, yeah. And that
years ago.
Yeah, that part, the faith stuff is hard for me to get through, but if you read that,
years ago.
He talks a lot, and there's a very good premise of the book where it's like every boy when they grow up is looking for an adventure and a purpose and like something to devote his life to. And yeah, man, for us it was just that one day I think captured a lot of men or boys and being like, okay, I can devote. I remember I was young and I was like, I have no idea what the rest of my life is going to look like. And that day I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I was, it was 01. So I was 10 or 11 or something like that. So,
well, dude, we were just talking about this after practice the other night, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah.
And like how men would just get on a boat and say, let's go that way and see what we find.
Yep.
Not knowing if you're going to fall off the edge of the world, right? Like you just don't know.
Yep.
And I forget who it was, but one of our teammates was like, do you really think that you would have got on those boats? I'm like, bro, not even a fucking second thought.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Like I go out and just look into the open ocean now with a full understanding of what the world is comprised of and what it would mean to actually get a boat and go across the ocean. And I'm still called to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is.
Dude, it's in all of us. And I think that's where people in society today struggle is that adventure has been sucked away, dude. It's been, hey, you're supposed to grow up, go to college, get a 9-to-5, raise a family. And so these people, men and women, right? They're just stuck. They're like, dude, I don't know. I have this calling. I want to travel. I want to go do things. Like I have no idea what's going to happen. And like that is in our DNA. And
of course, man.
It's been lost, man. Yeah.
And think about it. That need for exploration and adventure was really getting fed until the last 100 years?
I was to say, dude, it all changed about 100 years ago.
100 years ago?
Yeah.
You watch, did you watch like American Primeval?
Oh, dude, of course.
1883. And it's like all of those. It's like, dude, I could get in a fucking wagon.
Dude, absolutely right.
And just go west.
Yeah.
Well, there's river crossings and there's famine and there's winter and there's Native Americans and there's cattle thieves. And it's like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, because, bro, because we both understand what it's like to be in an environment that requires your full attention. And if you drop the ball, it could mean your life.
Yes.
And it actually feels kind of good.
Bro, it's why everybody stays in these professions and what they're always searching for, because it feels good. You're just like, oh man, what is this? I don't know, but
because your actions matter, your decisions matter, your relationships to the men to your left and right matter. And if you don't nurture those and do the right things, it could have catastrophic consequences. Mm-hmm. And that sounds scary to some people. It's actually freeing. It's like, I'm in the right place.
Yep.
And it's funny because now, you know, in my mid 40s, you look back on the wars and you're like, government corruption and fucking all the lies and all the things that have kind of transpired since. But in those moments, I loved it.
So did I.
You know, and I'll never, and because of that, I can never have regret for doing it.
Dude, I don't regret 1 second of my entire previous life.
So then you knew from a young age, that's what you were going to do.
Yeah. So by about junior high, it was maybe like freshman year of high school. I was like, I went to my parents and was like, hey, I know what I'm going to do. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, I'm going to West Point. I was like, I'm going. And they're like, my dad was like, no, don't do that. Go to any other academy. You know what I mean? Like, don't go to the Army. And I was like, no, that's what I'm doing. And so I spent the next 4 years in high school trying to be that perfect West Point applicant.
Like great athlete, great grades.
Dude, yeah, man.
No trouble.
Dude, no trouble, man. National Honor Society. My grades sucked because I hate school, dude. I'm not a guy. I can't don't put me indoors and like have me sit behind a desk. I told my mom knew even as a kid, I was like, listen, I will grow up and I'll never have a job where I'm sitting behind a desk, just working behind a computer or like doing something like that. I was like, I need to be outside. I need to be doing something active. So yeah, no, man, jumped into sports. Like I said, I was played baseball, football, basketball. I ran track. Was the captain of like the baseball and football team. Really, really, I love sports. It bring again that camaraderie, that team environment. Dude, I was like the yearbook editor. You know what I mean? I was doing everything I could to try to like get myself to West Point. Dude, I'm not. I'll be the first to say I am not like a very smart guy. I feel like I work harder than most, but as far as like intelligence, I feel like I'm just very average. And so it was very apparent when I took the SATs and ACT. They're like, yeah, man, your scores are just too low. So I got in with a conditional offer. I had to do a year of prep school.
Okay.
So I graduated high school, and the guy came in like, here's your appointment to West Point. It's been delayed a year, but you have to go down to this prep school in Marion Military Institute down in like Alabama. And I was like, cool, I'm in. Let's go. And so I waited. I went through that summer, worked, and that right before I was supposed to go down there, I went down there with my parents. And dude, the instant I drove into that academy, I can't explain it. Something was like, you're not supposed to be here. Not supposed to be here.
Shit.
Yeah. Like, this isn't for you. This isn't your path. And I looked at my parents and I was like, we got to go. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. And this is not what I want to do. And my parents were like, dude, we spent all of our money getting you down here. Like, we have no way to get you back. And I was like, I don't know, but I'm not staying here. And dude,
that's a lot of intuition for a young man to actually not only have, but to listen to.
Dude, I've always been very, I feel like I have high emotional intelligence. I feel like I'm very intuitive. I've been told that by, my ex-wife and all these people. Like, man, there's just something, you know how to like read people and you know how to listen to yourself. And I've always just followed my gut and my gut intuition with things.
Well, bro, I put EQ over IQ.
Oh, dude.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I talk about that often. Like, I also feel like I have a high EQ. Like, I can read a room, I can assimilate to a group of people, but you start having me take an SAT, right? It's like,
dude,
fuck.
Yeah, no way.
But also when you say that, like you said, I'm not a very smart guy. It's very clear to me you're not being like self-deprecating. This is just how my brain works.
Right.
Yeah. My financial coach, who's the wealthiest person I know, is like, hey, I have average IQ. And the reason that he says that is because he doesn't, just because there's someone that's smarter than you already said it. You can outwork them.
Absolutely. I have other skills. I have
other skills.
Yeah, I have other things that I can attack, other angles I can attack from. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room.
So then when you walked away from that prep school, did you think like, fuck, there goes my shot?
No, dude, I just was like, I'm going to figure something else out.
Okay.
And I had gotten into every school that I had applied to from high school. And so before I got up, I'm sitting at the airport. My grandfather paid for me to get back because my parents, we grew up, I mean, not poor, but like, lower middle class.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting at the airport and I call Northeastern, which is where the school I ended up going to in Boston. And I was like, hey, I got in. Is there any way I can get back in? I was like, I know I declined it. And they were like, well, we'll get back to you in a couple of days. And so I flew back to Maine and get a call from them. And they're like, hey, we can give you a spot, but you have to go in for the winter or the spring semester, and all your financial aid that you got isn't a thing anymore. And I was like, we'll do it.
You're like, great, lucky me.
Yeah, and dude, Northeastern is a very, very expensive private school. At the time I went, I think it was like $56,000 a year or something like that. And it's a 5-year school because you do like 6 months of study and then you do 6 months of co-op. So I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. I have no idea. My parents were like, dude, we can't help you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what we're gonna do. And I was like, I'll figure it out. Just let me get down there and I'll find my way. And so I did like 1 semester at University of Maine or in Orono in Bangor, Maine, just to do like my general ed or whatever. Transferred those credits down, and I started at Northeastern that January of 2008. So I got down there. Within the first 2 months, I was like, oh, I can't stay here. I was like, I can't stay. Dude, I can't afford it. I'd taken $47,000 in student loans my first year. Rent in Boston was like, $1,200 a month at the time. And I was like, oh, dude, I can't afford this. Even if I get a job, there's no way.
Just getting shackled into the system, dude.
For sure. And I remember I left the gym one afternoon. I'm walking back then, like kind of back towards where I lived in this apartment complex. And the ROTC office was like right there. I saw the canopy, and I was like, dude, I've always wanted to do this. Like, what am I waiting on? So I literally just something I can't explain it to you. Something was like, just walk in, and I walked in, and this like E7 NCO Sergeant Washington actually was his name. He's like, hey man, what's up? Can I help you? And I was like, yeah man, I kind of want to like join. What do I need to do? And he's like, well, we can back pay all your student loans. We'll pay for all of your schooling. Dude, this is the surge. So they have endless contracts. You know what I mean? Like by the time I left, dude, they had one contract a year for guys. So there you had like 50 applicants for one spot. And so you could just walk in and they're like, oh bro, you're interested in the Army. Like we'll give it to you. So they're like, show up tomorrow, take a PT test. You swear in. And he's like, dude, we'll pay you your book stipend. We'll give you 20% towards your housing.
It was the answer to all your issues.
Dude, exactly. It was just, and so, yeah.
Even if you hated the idea of being a soldier, there are people that just makes sense.
Dude, it was. And again, it was always something I had wanted to do, but then this just kind of fell in my lap. It was an opportunity. And I was like, dude, this is my way to go to school. Greg, I knew if I didn't go to school I was never going to go back.
Yeah.
Because I'm just not an academic guy. Like, I was like, if I don't get it now, I'm never going to go back. And I was toying. I was like, dude, maybe I'll just drop out and enlist and like, you know what I mean? Just do that. Like, I feel like it was '08. I'm like, dude, I feel like the wars are just kicking off. Like, I'm missing out, dude. I was like, I can go do 6 months of training, get in and like get to a unit and go. And I was like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And the next day I went to the lowest score I've ever had on a PT test. I think I got like a 258 or something like that. And they're like, dude, that's pretty good. And I was like,
they're thinking you're a stud.
Yeah.
Like, oh man.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. And that later that afternoon, dude swore in and they back paid all my student loans and I was in, man.
And then you're fucking rich, bro.
Dude, I used to get like $6,800 a year for rent. And I was depositing in my account and I was like, dude, I'm fucking loaded. You know what I mean? Like,
so then now you're just basically committed to 4 years of school while simultaneously doing the ROTC program.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, you become a commissioned officer.
Yeah, and you get to choose, man. At least when I was in there, they're like, you can go to National Guard, you can go active depending on how you rank. Like there was a lot of options. And I was like, okay, this buys me time and it gives me a little bit of leeway and runway to kind of figure out what that next step is within the military. And maybe I get a job doing something and I want to go National Guard, which a lot of guys did. A lot of guys just stayed at a unit locally and they stayed in the Boston area and that was their career for the next, if you went National Guard, you owed 8 years. If you went active, you owed 4.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Finished up school, man. And during the RTC thing, it's kind of always the way I thought. I started looking at like how they ranked people and like how jobs were assigned and like the algorithm that they used to basically how you got your job and where you wanted to go. And
you could game plan it to get good choices.
Exactly. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to focus on my major, my schooling, because that was like 40%. PT was a part. Like they had the evaluation out here at JBLM that you'd go and do your third year. That was a certain percentage. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to not game it, but I'm going to like focus on the system and figure out how I can best utilize this to get me where I want to go.
Would you do traditional school year, say like September through June or whatever, and then do military training throughout the summer?
Dude, so yeah, the way the school, that was the beauty of Northeastern was we had these like I said, you would go to school for 6 months and then you would have 6 months of co-op time. And so the way I looked at it was,
does that mean fuck off time?
Essentially, dude. Yeah. You would go and get like an internship in the field in which you're studying. And so the idea is like to get these people some work experience for your resume. So when you graduate, you have like, oh, I've worked at these 2 places. And a lot of guys were in finance and like working for architectural firms. And so it makes sense. And dude, I was like, well, bro, I've already committed to the Army. So I might as well get a leg up in the Army. So during my little 6-month windows, because I was in the Army, I had an E5 reserve card. And they'd be like, hey, what are you doing, these next 3 months? And I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. Like, you want to go to airborne school? I'm like, yep. And
shit.
Oh yeah, dude. So I was like,
so you were technically a sergeant?
As a cadet, yeah, you're like an E5 reserve sergeant is what was on my ID card that I had. But you're a cadet, you know what I mean?
So you go to airborne school and like smoke all the privates?
Dude, no, bro, you're not even a private. You show up with like the fuzzy rank on, you know what I mean? You're still wearing U.S. Army, like who the fuck are you? And you're like, dude, I'm a cadet.
So before you knew that you wanted to be infantry or anything, you just start to knock out some of these schools and courses.
Dude, yeah, but like they pay you. So I got paid E5 pay for being on orders because you get put on orders.
So back to being fucking rich.
Yeah,
bro.
bro. I was like, dude, you want me to go to airborne school, Fort Benning, learn how to jump out of airplanes or whatever, get paid, and like it gives me a leg up on my competition whenever I get into the Army. Like, dude, sign me up.
Yeah.
So I spent the next 3 years, dude. I went to airborne, air assault. I went to mountain warfare. Yeah, man. And any school I could go to that they would send me to, I was like, just send me.
That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah, dude. It was a really.
I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone capitalizing on an opportunity like that.
Yeah, dude. It was. I truly felt like that was what gave me a leg up when I actually commissioned and became an officer and got into active duty. I was like, dude, I've kind of been doing this a little bit, and I kind of know how it operates. And you're not just stuck in that like academia world, and then you're like thrown into like, well, all these wolves, and you're like, dude, you know, I'm a nerd from whatever university, like respect me. But no, dude, I mean, I went to mountain warfare.
Do you still have to go through OCS, or is that part of the ROTC program?
No, that's part of the ROTC program. So
okay, so you're, for the guys that didn't do what you were doing, you show up and really don't know fuck all about military culture and how it works.
Nothing. So I can tell you, my first experience into military culture was airborne school, and I remember being like, this is stupid. I was like, dude, after the first jump, I was like, this is dumb. I don't want to do this. And this really hurts. Dude, I saw a guy fall right in front of me and shatter both his femurs and just scream. I had to run and jump on him as he's like the parachutes pulling him across the fucking landing zone.
The shit that we did that was normal.
Yeah.
It was funny. I went and had dinner at a steakhouse in Bellevue. It's called Ascend, and it's on like the 35th floor or something. Mm-hmm. So you're on the top of this building and it's just glass walls. So you can walk right to the edge. And my daughter walks up next to me and then she stayed back like a couple feet. She goes, I don't even feel comfortable. And she goes, I know there's glass there, but I still don't feel comfortable. And then I was like, dude, this feels like the top of the 250-foot towers in Benning.
Yep.
You know, like
it's nothing, dude.
And that used to be, I'm going to go to the top of that fucking tower and get dropped with a parachute.
Yeah.
18 years old, that sounds like a good idea.
Dude, exactly.
I'm not fucking doing that now.
Dude, no way.
Dude, yeah, no way.
Yeah, especially with all my injuries. I'm like, dude, you couldn't pay me enough to go.
Did you guys do the towers? Because it seems like every other airborne, they shut them down, they opened them up. They shut them down, they opened them up.
I want to say they were shot down when I was there. I don't remember jumping out of the towers. No, yeah, but no,
they literally, you put on a fucking parachute. And they like hook a cable to the top of your T10 and they just pull you all the way to the top with your parachute in this device. Yeah. And then once you get to the top, push a button and it lets you go. It's like, how many fucking dudes have ran into the towers? I wonder.
Dude, you just got stuck up there just dangling for hours.
Slip away. Yeah. There's no such thing.
Yeah, dude, you have zero control with those risers, man. Yeah, you're just falling out of the air. But yeah, no. So what really we're talking about culture and getting used to the military. So do you remember Mountain Warfare School up in Jericho, Vermont?
I never went to that,
dude.
No, so, I've heard of it. But yeah, I don't. It's not a normal pipeline for regiment guys, so I'm not familiar.
There were a couple dudes there, and they were the RRD1 guys.
Got it. Okay.
So I show up to this school, and it's small. There's like 30 students, and it's a gentleman's course. And like I'm sitting in this one other cadet there with me. He's from West Point, and I'm looking around, and there's like a couple CAG dudes, there's some RD1 dudes, there's a bunch of Green Berets, and I was like, okay. Like now I'm starting to figure, dude, those guys fucked with another cadet. Like, but here's the reason why I didn't fuck with me. So I came from Maine, and so all these dudes were on TDY, so they got picked up at the airport and dropped off at this school. The school's in the middle of the mountains in like Vermont. Mm-hmm. And so I drove. So I had a car.
Oh, so yeah. Got it.
Bro.
Anytime you're in a military course, become homies with the guy that brings his car.
Dude, they were all like, they're like, the first day, they're like, bro, you got a car? And
hey, weed, let's go get lunch.
Dude, yeah, they're like, hey, let's go to Walmart and pick up some drinks, energy drinks and whatever. And so I instantly made friends with everybody. Dude, nobody fucked with me. So.
Well, and also in any military course, your first impression's your PT test.
Yes. Yeah.
You show up in shape. You have to fuck up to lose people's trust after that.
Yeah, yeah. And no, you're absolutely right. And so anyway, you go up there and you have to perform. And it's very much a gentleman's course. It's like, hey, if you don't meet the standard, you're out. And there's no yelling. There's no nothing. I remember that's where I learned to do like mountain land nav. And so they send you up there with just like, they give you like a barometer on your, or not a barometer, but a elevation thing on your watch. And they're like, hey, just use the terrain to figure out where you are and find these points. And so they send us out, and I remember coming back and we're sitting around, and dude, the two CAD guys didn't come back. They missed their time hack. And
that's blasphemous.
Oh, dude,
I'm gonna edit that out.
Yeah, bro, dude,
that can't be a real story.
No, dude, listen to this. It gets better. So they come back. They come back, and they're fucking pissed. And everyone's like, oh, you know, fucking unit guys, whatever.
Because their selection is all land.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And it's gnarly.
Well, so these guys are like, you guys don't understand. Like, we've been spending the past 10 years using GPS and like stuff. We don't do this. We don't use like paper and pencil and like a protractor. And you know what I mean? They're like in a fucking altimeter on your watch. Like, that's not how we operate. And dudes, for the rest of the course, those dudes. So the next day we went out, we didn't have to wear like our packs. They packed a 65-pound pack. They wore their rucks, and they came in first.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, okay. And they're like,
all right, you guys are good.
Yeah,
then.
yeah. We
so
fucking told you.
It wasn't necessarily a pass-fail event then?
No, no. It was like, hey, go out, get accustomed to these new techniques that we're teaching you and like learn, right? Like it really was. I mean, dude, we went up on rock faces, and they're like, get up, and here's you have a rope, and you're like, what? And so you're like trying to figure out how to do like Prusik shit, and you're like free climbing a little bit. Dude, we're doing like hoisting like bodies up, and dude, it was high angle elevation shooting. It was awesome. It was such a good course. So anyway, that was like my second year in. So I went to that pretty early, and that,
bro, what a true blessing,
dude.
Because I'm here to tell you, dude, understanding land nav is the bread and butter of an infantryman.
Yes, yeah,
and like. I don't know if you know this because you were an LT, but the running joke of every lieutenant in the MOS of infantrymen is that they're lost.
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah,
you know,
yeah, dude, like, just fucking lost in the sauce.
Lost in the fucking sauce, dude.
Yeah.
And it's because exactly that. Like you come in a leadership position, but if you haven't attended courses like that, getting good at land nav is a really special skill set.
Yeah. Oh, dude, for sure. But I'll tell you how that one course ended up fucking me in Ranger School. So, yeah, dude. Oh yeah, it gets good. So, anyway, yeah, I go to Air Assault, I get all that stuff done, and then I go out here. I forget what it's called, like CTLT or something like that. I don't remember. But you would come out here and they had it was like a month-long evaluation, and so they'd put you through everything. It was like leadership training, land nav, all these. It's basically like a mini OCS, and it's how they rank you. So I was like first regiment. I come out here to JBM, dude. First time ever out here on the Pacific Northwest, and the terrain got me, dude. I was like, dude, this is like Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? Trying to land nav out here, and I was like, I'm from the East Coast. Like it's like rolling hills and very open.
Well, in a lot of once the vegetation gets really dense, like in South Rainier, where a lot of the military areas where we train, it's dead reckoning. It's following an azimuth.
Yep.
Train association gets taken off the table, and they're very different skill sets.
Yes, vastly. And again, I hadn't trained in it. So anyway, I go to that. I pass that. I end up coming back, get ranked. I ended up ranking really, really well throughout the nation. And so they came to me and they're like, hey, you get first choice of your branch and duty location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the way it worked, at least back then in ROTC, they had the Service Academy guys, and then you would have like the ROTC and like the Citadel and like those other academies, and everybody got ranked. And so they would take one through this evaluation, one through however many they could afford that year for like active officers, and everybody below that number was like, hey, bro, you didn't qualify. You were just going straight to National Guard.
Okay.
So my year group, I was year group 12. They took 6,500. And so I was number 28.
Wow.
Yeah. So they came to me and my battalion commander sat me down. I was like, bro, you can do whatever you want. And dude, I went back and forth. I was like, dude, maybe I want to go aviation. Do I want to go like JAG? Like, what do I want to do? You know? And I remember sitting there with that piece of paper and being like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And so I was like, no, man, if I'm going to go be in the Army, I'm going to be in the Army. And I'm going to do it to my highest level or whatever I think I'm totally capable of. So I was like, I'm going to go infantry. And I went out to Carson for like some follow-on training after my like the little evaluation thing. And I really liked Colorado. I really liked the dude, the mountains and like
It's fucking rad
dude,
out
the
there.
quality of life and everything. And I was like, I'm gonna go there. I was like, I
We
don't.
used to do our rotary wing rotations out there.
Oh, dude,
so.
I loved Colorado. It was amazing. And but I was like, dude, I don't really want to go to like 10th Mountain. You know what I mean? Be up in the cold. Like I'm not a cold guy. I was like, I don't really want to go sit down at Bragg. You know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
just kind of like trying to evaluate where I wanted to go, and I knew I couldn't get any sort of like, you know, special ops unit at that point because I was like that. You know, there's an evaluation period for officers later
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your career. So I was like, all right, well, I'll go to Carson. So I commissioned in like May of 2012. Colin Powell commissioned me, which was super cool. It's kind of ironic because growing up, he was always like this like iconic mentor figure. I read all his books, like did all my school projects on him. And then like here I am, you know, 20 to 21, 22 years old, and he's the dude like swearing me in. It was
Wow,
super
that's cool, man.
Yeah. So on my commission thing, I still have at home. I still have his signature and everything. So, and then dude, I commissioned, I went active, and they were like, hey, you're reporting to Benning in a week.
For Ranger School.
No, for IOBC.
Oh,
so
okay,
so yeah,
okay,
so I
yep.
chose infantry, and so they're like, hey, I don't know what it's called now, but like you got to go down to Benning and do your IOBC, which is like the infantry officer basic course. And I was like, cool. So
How long is that?
dude, that was I reported in May, and I finished that in September.
Okay,
so that's
a decent amount of time.
yeah,
then.
a couple months. And dude, you get down there, and they'll straight up tell you like, hey, you're an infantry officer, you have to have a tab. This is pre-ranger.
Yeah.
Like this is just solely to get. And dude, all it was, now that looking back on it, it was Ranger School, but honestly harder. Like it just, they smoked you, dude. They didn't feed you, and you're like, dude, what are we doing here? Like this, we're supposed to be learning to becoming officers, not
Just
learning.
getting your fucking shit kicked
Yeah,
in.
dude. And so
And it's probably ran by a bunch of senior NCOs,
that's
right?
exactly. Yep.
So
Yep.
like,
Spot on, dude.
We're fucking smash these guys.
yeah. Well, what's funny,
And then
dude,
you'll be their boss one day.
yeah, right. But dude, it's so funny, man, because you show up and you're like you're meeting all these new officers, and dude, they're from everywhere, right? They're from like West Point, they're from the Citadel, they're from the other RTC units or whatever. And
Is there any prior enlisted in that? Or
yeah,
okay.
no, they go through their own pipeline. Oh no, there are. So some of the OCS guys who graduated OCS would then do their follow on at IOBC.
Okay.
Yeah, so they would like get their branch, and then they would come over there to do that. So yeah, it was kind of like a mix of people. And dude, it's like full of National Guard guys. Dude, we had a couple guys from like Egypt. We had an Afghan dude. Like, I mean, it was just kind of like a
That's right. There was like international
Yeah.
school down in Benning.
yeah. So
Okay.
those guys got thrown into our class, and dude, it was weird. I remember we were doing like squad live fire or buddy team live fire. So we were like shooting and we're moving. We're learning how to like.
Is it literally like the same shit you're doing in basic training?
Yes.
Cover him while I move.
Yes.
Got you
yeah,
covered.
Same shit, dude. But you're actually shooting, which is fun. And dude, I remember sitting there one day, and like we're sitting under the bleachers, dude. It's just Benning summer, and you're just like scorched. You're just like, oh my god, it's so hot. And we look over, and they're like, all right, you two, like the Egyptian officers, like go do it. And I remember looking over, and the dude's smoking a cigarette, like with his shit off, right? And he's like, yeah, we don't do that stuff in where I'm from, and do that NCO. Just
Wait. We don't do what stuff?
They don't get on the ground. They don't buddy team. They don't like live fire. They don't do anything, dude. He's like, we don't do that. Yeah, bro, dude, they literally grabbed him by the back of his shirt, dude, put him in a Humvee, and those dudes were gone.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, oh, okay.
Hey, don't get any fucking ideas.
Yeah, dude.
We do this.
Yeah. So they were gone instantly.
Bro, that's the most, because we've done obviously training and operations with Iraqis and Afghans and Jordanians. We don't do that.
Yeah, they were. They're like, we're officers. We have people for that.
Yeah, I could totally see that, dude.
So, dude, anyway, that was a very quick thing for me. Got through that, and I remember we graduated on a Friday, and we got our blue cords, and they're like, "Hey, we know some of you guys are still waiting on like Ranger slots. Who wants to go? Where there's a class with some spots open on Sunday."
You're like me. Send me,
bro, dude.
Get it over with,
dude. Exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. So I raised my hand, dude. I think maybe 6 of us in our class of like 60 raised our hand. It was, dude, looking around, people are like,
bro, it's a requirement.
yeah. Oh, dude, and guys were like, oh, we'll just go later. I need time to heal. Like, that was my.
You're in the army.
Yeah, dude. It was my first thing where I was like, oh, okay, I just need to outwork these guys, you know. And so, dude,
I have stress fractures, and so does every other person in the platoon.
Dude, exactly. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna go, dude, I might as well just keep this train rolling and go right into it. And so, yeah, dude, day 0 on Sunday, I showed up, and dude, I was not anticipating any of that.
Of rap week of like,
Yeah,
welcome
dude,
aboard, dump your bags,
yeah.
the gulag, all that shit.
Dude, all of it, man. I remember, dude, I was crushing like 5 energy drinks a day. And then I guess showed up day 0 and they're like, all right, put your bags into those like rock pits and the overhang. And we just sat there and they smoked us and smoked us and smoked us. And like, I remember sitting there being like, are we ever going to be like, we're ever going to do something else? No, dude, I didn't move from those pits for like 4 days.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, sit down, 30 minutes, sleep, and you'd wake up. Dude, for that whole week, I had just nothing but a migraine because I was coming off caffeine. You can't have anything there.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, I don't know if I can make this, you know? And I remember when I showed up though, day 0, there was like 300 and something in the class. And I remember sitting there on those rocks and going, the only way I'm leaving here is either in a body bag or with my tab.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, bro, and you were in a similar situation that I was in where if you're coming from regiment and you fail, they kick you out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a career ender.
Was it RFP or something like that? Yeah. Release for performance or
RFS. Release for standards.
Yeah, standards. Yeah.
Same thing with you.
Yeah.
If you're an infantry officer, and bro, I remember when I was going through, there were some infantry officers that quit.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
And it's like, dude, what, like, why are you here doing this?
Yeah. Well, that was the first taste into that world where I was like, not everybody's cut out for this. And
but like to get that far to where you did all this work that we just talked about for the last 45 minutes of the path you needed to walk to be standing in Ranger School and then be like, fuck this, dude.
Yep.
And you saw it all the time.
Dude, all the time.
And it's like, dude, no, because your career as an infantry officer is over after you make that choice.
Oh, dude, it was very apparent as soon as I got to my first unit. I was like, oh, okay, we can get to that. But I showed up to my first unit and there were guys that were there 3, 4, 6 months before me with no tabs. And I showed up with 8 other officers, only one with the tab. And they were like, you platoon. Dude, I didn't even go to the shops. Like they just pulled me right out of like the in-processing thing and they're like, you're going to Delta Company.
Well, and for people that don't understand military culture, a new lieutenant shows up and is officially in charge of the platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you have E5s, E6s, and E7s that have been operational in that platoon for years.
Dude, years.
And so you have to show up in a capacity where like the first impression of you is this dude's a badass.
Yeah.
Because if you're NCOs, because bro, I was the NCO and these are even regimental officers. So you have to go through another layer of really scrutiny to show up as an officer at regiment. And if the officer shows up fucked up, man, it's so hard to get the respect of the men.
It's gone.
But you show up as a stud. Like I remember, I've told this story on the podcast before. We had a new officer show up. He wasn't my platoon. I think he was second platoon. It was in our company though.
Mm-hmm.
And it was we were doing a field day where it's like a bunch of different competitive events. And everyone's expected to sign up either for a race or like whatever the different events are, right? Mm-hmm. I said, hey, sir, I know it's your first day here, but why don't you sign up and do the 5-mile race? And he goes, okay. And he won it.
Yeah.
And then after he won that, the next race, I forget what the next race was. I don't remember if it was longer or shorter, but it was another race. I said, hey, sir, you just won that race. Why don't you do the next one? And he won it.
Yeah.
So, bro, instant stud.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like
yeah.
He is now vouched for. Yeah. And those little things matter because if you show up out of shape, what you're telling your new platoon is that you don't take the job very serious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, we went back to when we first started. These are people's lives.
Yeah.
And so they have to know that they can trust you and they can rely on you.
And plus, being in shape is the one thing that you have control over.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So for you to show up out of shape, you're telling your men like a private showing up out of shape is one thing because like I'm just part of the whirlwind and I'm trying to fucking get here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But when you show up knowing you're going to be in a leadership position, it's a different thing, man.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to Ranger School though, because you said your experience in the mountain warfare school fucked you.
Yeah. So we start day 0, man. And again, it's just grinding, you know, you're just like, okay, you see people falling out and you're like, okay, well, dude, we talk about, you talk about that dark energy and seeing those guys like fall out and you're like, fucking bitch. Like I'm going to take that, right? Like, yeah, dude, I own a little bit more now. Right. And so you just keep going. Dude, I freaking almost died at the Darby Queen, you know, the Jacob's ladder where you're like going up it's like,
Oh, it's a bunch of the different platforms.
yeah, platforms, dude. And
It's funny you say that because I've thought about you like do like a flip down and hold on with like your hands like this. That thing's fucking 60 feet in the air or something
dude, bro.
crazy, right?
So listen to this. So I'm in Derby Queen, and dude, it's summertime bending. You're sweaty. You're just like gross. And I get to the top. I'm at the top rung, and on a good day, I'm 160 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, and this big dude, and I reach down to grab his arm and hand, like pull him up. And dude, he grabbed me, and he probably weighed 230 pounds. And dude, he pulled me off the top.
Oh, fuck.
Of the Jacob's ladder. And so I went down, and I remember looking and like seeing, and like the edge of the net was like coming up. And I remember just closing. I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm dead. And I
Oh,
closed.
you literally fell off the top?
Oh, dude, off the top of the Jacob's ladder.
I thought you were going to say like he pulled you off, but then he held on to you.
Bro, no, dude.
He let go of you.
Let go of me, dude. I just came off the top. And dude, I remember falling and looking and just going, oh, this is it. And I closed my eyes, and dude, somehow like my back came down, and the momentum I caught in the net. And dude, I'm like laying there, and I thought I was dead. And I open my eyes, and all I hear is, oh, fuck. And these two RIs, dude,
like,
come running over, and they're like, oh my God, bro, are you okay? And I open my eyes, and I'm like, I think so. And they're like, good, get the fuck up and start your push. Dude, it's just instantly.
Don't fall off my fucking obstacle,
dude,
ranger.
Dude, I'm sitting there for the next 10, 15 minutes. That's exactly what they said, dude. 15 minutes, dude, doing push-ups, and everyone's passing me. And I was like, this sucks. And then I get up and start running away, and the dude's like, glad to see you're okay, man. And I was like, thanks, dude. And so anyway, I get through that.
He couldn't come out of roll completely.
Yeah, no, dude, not completely. But no, so where mountains ended up, or where Mountain Warfare ended up getting me was mountains. Or no, excuse me, Florida. So get through mountains, dude. I know.
Oh yeah, just because it's as flat as a pool table.
Well, pool table, but dude, you have to do those the rope bridges, crossing the water crossings.
Yeah.
And so, dude, I'm like, by the time I get to Florida, I'm delirious. I'm like 30 pounds less. I got in goes in Derby phase. I got to go in mountains. And we're sitting there at the training ready to jump into Florida, and they're like, hey, is anybody in class echo qualified? And this is my first lesson where you like
just be the gray man. Just shut the fuck up.
Exactly, which is what I did in the academy. I was like, Brian saying shit. Like, I'm just gonna fucking sit here and not say a word. And so of course, me, young 22, I'm like, yeah, I am. And they're like, awesome, you're carrying all the ropes. And so, dude, they weighed us. When I jumped into Florida, I had a 110-pound ruck on top of me and 140.
What the fuck, dude?
And so for that whole water movement, I'm carrying wet ropes, and dude, it was just. So anyway, I learned my lesson there, never to like say what my capabilities are, because I was now the guy to be the lead swimmer across, to set up the rope system, to get everybody across. Anyway, it all worked out. But that was the worst movement of the whole phase, dude. I remember. Because you can't use your nods because they don't want you to lose them. Mm-hmm. So it's nighttime. And it was only like an 800-meter water movement, dude. And I remember like crawling over that like Florida shit, dude. My pants blew out, and so my stuff's in the water, dude. And dude, I'm sitting there just crying. And I'm like, dude, this fucking sucks so bad. They pull us out and like, hey, dude, this time it was November. So it was cold.
Okay.
And the water was like 51 degrees. And so they're like, hey, hypothermia. They're like, get all your wet shit off.
Because they had rangers die.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And so all the time. They've been on high alert since then.
Yeah. And so they're like, hey, get your wet shit off right now. And they're like, yeah, but you have to pack it out. And dude, I looked down on my bruck, and dude, it's like filled with these wet ropes and shit. And I was like, there's no fucking way, dude. I took my wet uniforms and I threw them in the woods. And I was just like, dude, you're not going to get me to carry these wet, broken uniforms.
Bro, it's funny you said that, because it doesn't matter how squared away of a ranger you are. Everybody also takes certain opportunities to sham.
Oh, dude, for sure. Yeah.
Like when you're doing like an L-shaped ambush, and you initiate with a 6 to 9 round burst. You mean a 60 to 90 round burst?
Dude, exactly.
Because I'm trying to burn through this ammo.
Bro,
and the ammo you didn't burn through, bearing on the ambush line.
Dude, you'd be walking and you see the guys like, and they just be breaking links off of ammo. And
especially in Florida.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the patrolling, the water's up to like nipple line.
Dude, yes.
So you're literally, and if you pack your ruck correctly, it floats behind you, takes the weight off your shoulders.
Dude, so we landed on that water movement. We were on those little Zodiacs or whatever, and I had the 240. And they're like, I was the guy at the front of the boat, and they had me jump off because we landed. Dude, I jumped, and that water and that mud sucked me out to my nipples, dude. And dude, my ruck like came up over my head, and I have my gun, and dude, I'm sinking, and I'm panicking, bro. I'm like, get me the fuck out of the water, get me out, get me, dude. And they're like trying to rip me out, but the harder they're pulling, the more it's like sucking me in, dude. I was like, I'm gonna die in here,
bro. The two knots that I use regularly to this day is obviously a bowline.
Yep.
Like knowing every man needs to know a bowline. If you don't know a bowline, you're missing out on fucking pretty much every fucking tie down. You want to tie a Christmas tree to your car? Yeah. You better know a bowline.
Dude, it works in any situation.
Yep. But also the Ranger rope bridge, it's funny because I'm actually thinking about Christmas trees. You know where you just tie, you make the little loop so you can run the rope through it and then cinch everything down.
Yeah.
Bro, I've used that fucking method thousands of times in my life.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like I said, the rope. Dude, I have a book at home on my bookshelf. It's just like ropes and how to build rope systems. I mean, I have a bunch of it at the house. And I keep rope in my truck. Like
doing. We could talk about knots for the next hour.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Dude, if you don't know some good knots, you're failing as a man. Dude.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Remember the fucking Swiss seat?
Oh, dude, of course.
Make your own harness out of a rope and pinch your balls off.
Dude. And they would just, dude, over and over and over again. You're not fast enough. You're not fast enough. You're like, dude, when am I ever going to use this Swiss seat? But, you know, it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, I forget the one knot that I passed all my knots in Ranger School. I didn't have any failures, but the one that I was worried about was the rerouted figure of 8. For some reason, you'd reroute it and it would come out on the wrong side.
Yeah, and like there'd be like a kink in it. Yeah, dude, that was
like, that's a fucking no-go, man. You know?
Like, oh, what the fuck? I still use a figure 8 all the time. And dude, same thing. Every time I tie it, I'm like, oh man, there's a kink. But I'm like, fuck it. It'll be fine. So it's just holding something down, you know?
Oh, fuck, dude.
But yeah, so anyway, I went straight through, man. I was very fortunate. I think there was like 60 of us from the original class that made it through. And then, yeah, so I got out and I was broken. I was like, there was no physical way. Well, one, I wasn't going to leave until I passed, but there was no physical way I could have continued.
Well, bro, I think about that, dude. Like, I went straight through as well. And I know buddies that recycled every single phase.
Yeah, same.
And it's like, dude, that means they did twice the amount of work in Ranger School that I did.
Yeah.
Fucking studs, dude.
Dude, there's absolutely, yeah. I look back
and I wouldn't have quit had I got recycled because, again, you quit, you're done being in the regiment. So if I had to do one of those 6 months extended tour at Ranger School, I would have done it. But Ranger School wasn't fucking easy, man.
No, man.
It's funny because whenever people are done with something arduous, I remember lots of guys like, dude, Ranger School is fucking easy. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
You're just saying that to sound like a badass.
Yeah. No, dude, it was
because I did it and it sucks.
Yeah, dude, it was awful. Dude, I had a guy, Ryan Pace. He was a third group guy, super close buddy of mine. Through him and I instantly became friends in the school. And I remember him, we're sitting there one day and just dying. And he looks at me and he was like, bro, this is harder than SUT. He was like, this sucks. And he ended up being our academy or like our honor grad and stuff. He's a really good dude. But
dude, do you remember like, you know, you'd fucking get what, 30 minutes of sleep a night or something just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then you'd be sitting in a patrol base and you'd be next to a Ranger buddy and you'd be like, man, let me tell you about my mom's fucking turkey dinners. And you guys would almost have like a fucking, you would fantasize.
Yeah.
About what you were gonna eat after you graduated.
Dude, that's all you could think about was what you were eating. Dude, I remember we had a break between Darby and Mountains. It was like to go do laundry. And I had my apartment in Benning, like off base.
Oh, you got to actually have off.
It was a pass. You're like an 8-hour pass.
Wow.
They were like, you guys go do what you need to do.
Everyone comes back sick.
Dude, that's what happened. Yeah. So I ran back to I got a cab, ran back to my apartment, threw my laundry in, and dude, I got another cab, went to the store, and all I thought about was mint chocolate chip ice cream. Dude, the whole time. I was like, bro, I got one of those massive.
I was gonna say, dude, not an ice cream cone. No, a gallon.
A gallon. Yeah. I bought like the half gallon. Dude, I remember
logically. That's
yeah. And dude, I remember sitting in the cab ride back, just with a spoon, just eating it. Dude,
the cab driver's like, yeah, another Ranger, another Ranger student. And
I got back. I packed up my bags. I took the cab back to Benning, reported back in, and I remember getting back and being like, "Oh, I am so sick." I had ate that whole thing, man. And I was like, "Do you haven't eaten in like weeks, you know?
Do you remember every cab driver in Benning was like a former special ops
Oh,
dude?
dude, of course. Yeah.
Fuck, is this my future?
Yeah. It's not a future I wanted. So
between graduating Ranger School, now you're basically done with the infantry officer pipeline.
the training pipeline.
What's the time between Ranger School graduation and taking a platoon?
So
because you don't want to show up broke.
Yeah. So I graduated in November of 2012. There was like a 3-week period, and dude, the first 2, they were like, "Hey, you're going." It was like a recovery platoon. It was basically like post grad guys, and they would like let us go to basic, and we would like fill in and talk to the basic trainees and stuff, and they wanted you to like go show your tab or whatever. But every day was like PT, and dude, I couldn't run. Like I remember going to the track, and they'd be like, "All right, go run 2 miles," and I was like, "Dude, I can't." Like I would try to run, and I just
You're hobbling.
I was just walking, so I would just walk. So those first 3 weeks, I was basically just recovering. I was eating, sleeping, and like walking. And then I got to my unit in December of 2012. Same thing. It showed up. There's a bunch of other officers who were already there waiting for platoons. I showed up with 8 other officers. I was the only one with a tab. I mean, it was like in processing day, and they were like, "You're going to Delta Company." And dude, I was in the platoon a week or 2 weeks later.
Okay.
And they were coming back from Afghanistan. So I went to 112, 4th Brigade, 4th ID, which there's a ton of history. So do you remember the Outpost, the movie? Cop Keating? That's 361 Cav. So that was my brigade. So our little footprint, we had like each building had its own battalion, and it was 112 Infantry, 212, and 361 Cav. And so we're all super tight. Everybody worked together. And so we showed up, and I was like, oh shit, I'm going to that unit. A lot of like meritorious like history there. That lieutenant who ended up winning the Medal of Honor, I forget who it was. I'm blanking on his name, but anyway, he came from that same unit. Like, I mean, there was a ton of, and I was like, wow, I get to go here.
And man, like 2012, by this time, every one of your NCOs had combat, huh?
Dude, everyone. And so
I guess even the privates
all
had
of them,
combat.
all of them. Yeah. And so I showed up, dude, my first day, and the guys had just got off the plane like 3 days ago.
Oh shit.
Yeah, they had just came back from I don't remember where they were. They were up somewhere northeast.
How did you approach that situation?
Dude, I was like, I remember talking to the platoon sergeant. I'm like, listen, man, you're the man. I'm a new guy here. You just teach me and show me what I need to do.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Showed up with humility.
Yeah.
Because, bro, that's the only way for you, again, to gain the respect of your men. Like, even though you're technically in charge, they just been doing the real fucking shit for the last 6 or 9 months, whatever.
Well, what really got me was the platoon I took over for, the lieutenant who I was relieving, his name is Lieutenant Battison. They tried to assassinate him on one of his KLEs. And so
What's the KLE? I don't know that.
Key leader engagement.
Oh, okay.
So on one of like the typical meetups we would go, we do like the key leaders in the towns or whatever. And one of the guys tried to assassinate him. Well, he had his little PSD, and one of my squad leaders ended up like shooting and killing the dude as he's like pulling a gun. Dude, I'll never forget. Like, dude, I'm sitting just my first week. And he's sitting there, and he's like, yeah, man, I remember sitting there, and this dude like points his pistol, and he's like, I move my hand, the round goes off, and he's like, next thing you know, we're fighting, and like my PSD dude comes up and double taps this dude in the chest, like, and I was like, fuck, what did I just get into?
Yeah, it's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
And he was going to 5th RTB. He was going to go do training for the Ranger Regiment up in mountains.
Okay.
So he was on his way out. I took over, and like, here I am, this brand new cherry lieutenant. And these guys just came back from Afghanistan, and like, these guys are fucking legit. You know, they're all combat veterans. Like, these dudes are killing people, and I'm like, hey, I'm the new guy. You know, like, show me what I need to do. But going back and like you were talking about setting that standard from the beginning and showing that I'm legit. We had like a PT test, and like right when these guys came back, and I ended up getting the highest in the company. And so like my name got put up on this platform.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck
right.
yeah.
And like, and right from the beginning, dude, we'd go out and like during PT, we'd go do like DT. This was still the days where you'd like go out and ruck and like drop your rucks, and like we'd form a circle, and everybody would just
fight each other.
And dude, of course, like they're like, hey, new lieutenant, go in the middle. And dude, I'm not a big guy. You know what I mean? I'm 160 pounds. These dudes are fucking big. And like, dude, they just went to town on me. And like, you just don't quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at the end, they just want to see that you can like hang. And I mean, they kicked the shit out of me, but.
Dude, it's funny. I think back because we used to do that shit all the time.
Yeah.
And I used to think, I think I'm pretty legit.
Yeah.
Because I do pretty well at certain platoon combatives.
Yeah.
And and then you actually train with guys that are actually trained. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that dumb shit we were doing. Like,
Yeah, dude.
but the others, and here's the thing too, because you always hear people like, I laugh when I see these people getting in these Facebook arguments. They're like, Army Rangers and Navy SEALs and Delta Force operators, they could kill UFC fighters with their bare hands because their techniques are lethal. And it's like, guys, listen, we don't have the time to really become proficient fighters with your fucking hands.
No, dude. Yeah.
Like that's a full-time position, i.e. professional fighters, right?
Yeah.
We shoot, move, and communicate. The application of hand-to-hand combat in the military, in my opinion, is more about like competition, struggle within your peer groups.
Yes.
It's
Exactly
not very applicable to combat engagements.
No, not at all. Yeah. No, yeah, you're spot on. So, yeah, so I was there for, a couple, but as soon as I got there, like, hey, by the way, we're going back in 11 months. And I was like, oh, cool. Like,
That's actually pretty, I mean, you got a year with the guys.
Yeah.
To do a full fucking training cycle, get in with them, get their respect. And then by the time you deployed, I'm imagining they know you're fucking one of the guys.
Well, it was a little strange because like I ended up having to leave that platoon right, and I was very upset about it. Leave that platoon right at the deployment, and then I moved to like an executive officer role.
Oh fuck, dude.
So yeah, man. So I was not happy about it. So I was a Delta Company, which is like our heavy weapons platoon. And so, dude, I had like tow missiles, I had javelins, and I was like, this is gonna be awesome. You know what I mean? I was like, we have the Mark 19s. Like, dude, I was like, this is gonna be great. And so we do the full train up, man. Like we're getting ready to go, and it was probably a month before we're getting on the planes. And one of the other XOs from Bravo Company had to go. He was going to like the captain's career course or something. And they're like, hey, there's this vacancy. Like somebody needs to fill in. And they're like, Weed, you're going. And I was like,
wouldn't it make more sense to have the vacancy stay in the XO
dude,
position?
you would think so, as me training up with this platoon for the whole year, dude. And like,
but in true military form, common sense is often overlooked.
Thrown out the window. Yeah. And they saw like, I'm sure they saw like a capability in me, and they're like, you're going to go, dude. So I showed up to Bravo Company still wearing a butter bar as an XO. And they're like, where's your first lieutenant? I'm like, bro, I'm still a second lieutenant, and they're like, what the fuck? So anyway, I did a quick pack out, and I was on a plane to Afghanistan. Yeah. So
what was it like being deployed as XO then? Did you not get to be very operational?
No. So dude, I still got to do everything I want to do. I truly feel like I lucked out with my commander that I had. So the commander I had spent most of his, was a career guy, but he was a firm believer. Talk about like PTS, like he was just not having it. But he was like, hey man, listen, you and I are not allowed to be together. He's like, if I go down, you take over. If you go down, like I'm here. And so he was like, when I go out, you're back in the rear. The expectation is that when I'm back, you go out. So there was always like a ground force commander.
Okay.
So we were down in Kandahar, stationed out of CAF, which I was like, this is fucking stupid. But we had the Dan District AO, which is just off to the west. And so
I did a rotation there.
Did you really?
As Kandahar QRF.
Yeah.
So like, all the waiting in the lunch line and the rules and all the bullshit.
So dumb. Yeah. But so at this time though, this was 2014.
Okay.
And so OEF is kind of trickling down, right? They're like this big election. Ghazniy's coming out. I'm sorry, Karzai's coming out. Ghazniy's coming in. And so they're like, hey, we're starting this like retrograde from OEF. You guys are our regional QRF based out of CAF. But you guys, each company, like I think Charlie Company had to the north, Charlie Company had to the east. We had to the west. And then like Delta had to the north. And then Alpha was like a little bit, they used them to like kind of do some other security type stuff. So anyway, dude, I did, I think over like 300 combat missions.
Okay.
Oh,
well,
dude,
fuck, you got,
yeah, dude. I as soon as I got that, I mean, my name in the battalion was the Fighting XO because like we'd go to these meetings and shit, and all the other XOs would be there, like, "Where's Weed?" And they're like, "Oh, he's out of the wire, like out doing stuff."
Yeah.
And it was awesome because that was the expectation from my commander. He was like, "You don't come back here. If I'm back here, you're out."
Yeah.
Which was awesome. So it's like if a platoon was going out, I was hitching up, and I was the ground force commander for that op.
Well, that's interesting because I was gonna say like the XO position can be kind of hit and miss.
Yeah.
Because we had an XO that ended up going out into a safe house with us, and again became like the ground force commander.
Yeah.
Over our PL.
And that's what I'm saying, dude. I truly was like almost blessed in that aspect because
Okay.
I really got to, even though I wasn't in a platoon, I got like that next level of like kind of being a commander.
Yeah.
And
It's like almost in between
yeah, dude,
PL and company commander.
exactly. So I still had a lot of responsibility back in the rear, like getting vehicles to guys, replacing equipment, getting munitions out. But like when that job was done, like but the mission still took place was priority. So I'd be like, well, we're gonna have to wait on that. And the battalion XO would be pissed off because he's like, I told you guys to get this done like yesterday. And
Like, sorry, I'm out being
yeah.
a war fighter.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I was like, I'm out, dude. I'm sorry. You can't get me, you know?
Yeah.
Which was really nice.
How long was that deployment?
It was like I got there in February and I left in November. So it was like 9 months. I hit right on my dwell time. I left like the day that I.
Fucking 9-month deployments.
Yeah.
Crazy talk, dude.
Right.
My longest was 6.
Yeah.
Because the regiment typically does 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had one where our replacement ended up, it was actually 03. So the rest of the regiment invaded Iraq. And they're like, you're in Afghanistan until further notice. We have no replacement coming. It ended up being 6.
Yeah.
And I remember we were just like, fuck, dude.
Oh, yeah.
This is an eternity.
Yeah.
And then you got some fucking units doing 18 months.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
a PCS move.
Dude, I had guys in my platoon and Delta come 15, 18-month deployments. And they're just like, yeah, man, you just get used to it. And
It's just that's not even a deployment at that point. That's
yeah,
just your
you're
new
living
life.
there.
That's
Yeah,
your new life.
Yeah. Yeah. You now live over here. In
I
this
moved
desert.
to Afghanistan.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy, man. Yeah. So anyway, 9 months wasn't too bad. I mean, you get to the point. I remember the first couple months there, I was like, oh, I'm never going home. You know what I mean? Like I'm just stuck here. And I mean, it wasn't super kinetic. Our biggest threat was like the green on blue stuff and like IEDs. But you know, still got to have I had a blast, man. I loved it. Like being on the ground with dudes and like getting to do your job. Like, dude, I mean, I got to go out with the scout platoon and do reconnaissance over like a 3-day mission over, you know, on an overwatch position, just like looking out for.
Well, bro, you've been setting in ambushes since you were 5 years old.
Dude, exactly. Right.
And
Like
now
they
you're
knew.
here.
Yeah. Dude. And that's what, dude, anytime something would come up, I'd volunteer for it. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go. Like, dude, so again, being the XO, you have to kind of like requisition a bunch of equipment and property. So I made friends with like the AWG, the asymmetric warfare guys. I made friends with the counter intel dudes. And so, dude, these two, I don't even know who they were, man. They probably were like orange or something. Like, they never gave us names or anything. They wore jeans and like a t-shirt. And they came to me one day and they're like, hey, you want to go on a mission? And I was like, fuck yeah. You know, like, where do we do? And he's like, I'll tell you later. And so he's like, just get permission. And I was like, okay. So I go to my commander. I was like, hey, these counter intel guys want me to go with them. He's like, what are you guys doing? I was like, I have no idea. And he's like, all right, cool, go. And dude, the most sketchy thing I've ever done. We get in these Blackhawks. And I'm not going to talk about it. It's probably still like, you have to be like red on or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, what we were doing. But so it was 2 Blackhawks. One each had each counter intel guy, and they took me and another guy from our other unit, one of the other officers, and they were doing like signal intelligence gathering.
Okay.
And then me and this other guy were doing something else.
Yeah.
And we were we had these 2 Apaches with us that were basically guiding us up. And so we left CAF and we flew up to Apache. Well, Apache was run by our ACO. Well, they had retrograded 2 months prior. So there was nobody there. It was Afghan led. This was a fuel repoint, like a FARP or whatever. So they're like, hey, we're going to fly up to Apache. We're going to land, refuel, and then actually go. We went up to Ghazni and we were doing what we were doing up there. And so I remember we land in Apache, and the guy looks at me. He's like, hey, you're our security.
Yeah.
And I look at him. I'm like, bro, I got 3 mags,
Yeah.
my rifle, and a sidearm with like a spare mag.
Yeah. And a terrible sidearm at that.
Yeah,
Beretta 92F.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly what it was. Right. And dude, I remember he's like, bro, pull security while we refuel. And I knew. I was like, my battalion was the security element for it. And I knew that it was being held by the Afghans. And so I land, I put my nods down, and I start looking at like the guard towers. Dude, nobody's in there.
Bro, of course not.
Dude. And so I'm sitting there looking at this empty like cop or whatever, or fob, and there's nobody on it. It's completely vacant. And I was like, oh shit. Right? Like, what am I going to do if somebody comes over this wall or like, you know, it's on. So anyway, it's super quick. I get back on the bird. Dude, we take off and it's like fucking Christmas. There's just like rounds coming all at us. And I'm sitting there, dude, I don't have my helmet on. I'm wearing like a tether. I got my feet off the thing. And I remember just like kind of closing my eyes, being like,
Yeah,
dude, I'm about to get hit.
I don't want to get a round right up the ass.
Yeah, I do. And it was just like we take off and there's just rounds coming all at us. And so we take off, we do our thing. We come back. Well, we're on our way back. We have to hit the same refuel point to get back to CAF. So we land, and he's like, all right, you're our security, right? Because the other two dudes are in the signals helicopter and they're not coming out. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting. Like an hour goes by and I'm like, bro, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like everybody knows we're here now.
Yeah.
They just heard us come in. And I go back to the pilot. I'm like, bro, what's taking so long? And he's like, oh, bro, the fuel line's down. Like we don't know we're stuck. We're not going anywhere until I figure it out. And I was like, well, who? He's like, I was like, can anybody come and pick us up? And he's like, bro, the closest QRF is 3.5 hours away. And I was like, awesome. So you have one dude with a rifle. Dude, this is like, this is when I was like, I think I kind of took a little too far. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, and like, they're like, yeah, bro, if anybody comes over the wall, just shoot him. And I look over at my counter intel dude. He's got just a pistol on his jeans and he's sitting on his phone watching a fucking movie. And I was like, bro, we're about to get fucking just like beheaded and hung out to dry here, dude. We're not going anywhere. Our bird's down. Well, so ended up, dude, 3 hours later, the pilot comes back and says, hey, we're good. There was a bird's nest in the fuel line.
Dude, that's the most Army shit
Dude.
I've ever heard.
And he's like, let's go. And dude, he hung that thing up and we got back to CAF.
So they pre-positioned that and then left no...
Dude left it all completely open. And under the security of the ANSF. But
what meaning under no security?
Exactly, dude. I mean, dude, for my...
There's fucking birds moving into the fuel lines.
Yeah, bro. Like... Yeah. So I got back and I kind of gave him a rundown of what went down. My commander was like, yeah, we're not going to talk. We're not going to talk about that. Yeah. We're not going to tell anybody that you went and did that. So, but so anyway, all that to say, dude, I had awesome experiences, man. I got to go out and like, I mean, dude, I was a ground force commander, you know, for...
Well, and that was, you said 2012?
2014.
2014?
Yeah.
Because like shortly after that... miles of red tape started to restrict almost everything.
It had already started.
And
that was when I knew I couldn't stay in the Army anymore.
Okay.
Because I had other ambitions, dude. I was like, I'm going to get back and I'm either going to go to regiment or I'm going to go to selection.
So, and knowing you and the type of person you are, I knew that there was a reason you didn't do that. Yeah. And so I guess that was it, huh?
No, I'll give you the story, man. Not a lot of people know it, but we had a mission. We were going out to basically the Panjwai Seam to meet up with these like Afghan police. We worked a lot with like the police and the NDS, which is like their secret police or whatever. And so we had to go meet up. For some reason, I don't remember why we were going out there. And it was 3.5 hours to the west. Like, dude, Leatherneck had been retrograded. There's nobody out to the west. Like, we were it. We were the only unit in the south. And we're out on the seam, dude. And our lieutenant, West Point dude, but just a nerd, man. Just not really like very intuitive of what's going on. And they're like, no, come back into the building with us. And he's like, okay. And we're like, no, bro, you got to go with the PSD, right? And so my terp is like talking to them, and they're like, no. And they're like grabbing him, trying to like pull him back into their thing. And I pull my sidearm at the compressed ready, and I grab him. And I was like, get in the fucking truck, we're leaving. And so I grabbed him, we got in the car, and dude, they're tripping. Our biggest threat was green on blue.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, dude,
it happened all the time.
Yeah. I was like, we're not fucking dealing with this. So we got in the trucks and we drove away. Well, we were driving back. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And dude, I've done a lot of analysis on it, and I've thought about it quite a bit, but they had to have tipped somebody off we were coming back because one, we took the same route back that we took going there, which was mistake number one. And
but like in my experience, changing up the routes in Iraq is one thing because it's pretty built up. But Afghanistan,
dude, it's limited. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like there was only one way out there and only one way back. And it happened to our Delta company. There was one village they went down. There was only one road. They hit an IED, even with the mine roller in front of them, and it killed, the driver and TC, 17-year-old, and one of their Sergeant Prange, the TC. He was one of my best friends, really ate him up about that. And he was like, why are we down there? All these things. So anyway, we're driving back, and the vehicle, we're like in this, dude, it's a perfect ambush. It was like a S turn in the road, very sharp, kind of came back up, and there's like a bunch of rocks and like river, and they had a 250-pound IED right there.
Fuck.
And so we basically are coming to a stop as we're navigating the road, and I remember, dude, just like sitting there, and it's late. I have my medic who's driving me, and then I have my gunner up above me. And the next thing I'm looking up, dude, and I just get like rocked, dude. Just like boom, you know what I mean? I just see this like vehicle in front of me turn into a million pieces, and I get like thrown back into my seat. Yeah, so we're sitting there for a little while, and I remember like looking over, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? Like your brain doesn't register what just happened.
So it was the first vehicle in the convoy that got hit?
In the middle.
In the middle.
In the middle.
Okay.
So, and I'll get to what started leading me to not believe in like the brass on top of me and the red tape and all the shit that we just started kind of dealing with. So anyway, IED goes off. There are a bunch of casualties in the vehicle. This is the Army for you. So we had our PACE plan. Our primary was radio. Alternate was Blue Force Tracker. Contingency was our Iridium radio, which we only had one, of course. By the way, that Iridium was in the vehicle.
In that vehicle.
And that got detonated. And our emergency was our Roshan cell phones, like our emergency, like little phones that we had. And so we get hit. We're 3.5 hours to the west. Like our radios don't work. I'm trying to hit on the Blue Force Tracker, trying to put it up. It's frozen. Like it's not moving. And then I'm like sitting there, I'm like, our Iridium is in that fucking car or in that truck, the MATV. And I was like, well, here we go. So I pulled my cell phone, dude. I called the 9 line over my cell phone, called our talk. Birds are there in less than 8 minutes. They pick them up. Well, so during that course, as soon as I put out that we had gotten hit, the Apaches came on. And again, I'm the ground force commander. I'm talking to them. They're like, hey, we got two 500 or 600 meters north of you in a wadi, which is like a dried up riverbed. Just north of that bend where you guys got hit. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean?
Take
like,
them out.
Bro.
Yeah, come on.
I literally, you're cleared,
cleared hot.
Cleared
Fuck
hot.
yeah.
Take them out. And then I hear,
Were they just napping?
No,
Like,
yeah,
fuck you,
who's
dude.
sleeping in a fucking riverbed at 1 o'clock in the morning, like in the middle of the desert?
That overlooks the position you just got fucking an ambush
right?
initiated
And so
on.
dude, I'm sitting there with the Apache. You're cleared hot. Like engage. And he's like negative. Red Warrior 6 says no. And I go, yeah, he's not here. It's me. That's hostile intent, right? Like take him out.
Yeah.
And he was like, nah, negative. Like the colonel's overruling you. And I go, okay. And so
Get the colonel out
yeah,
here then.
so-
hey, sir, come out here and do my fucking job. Then.
Right.
Because if you don't trust me to do it, you
exactly
fucking do it.
Dude, totally. So anyway, we set up security, man. We get the birds in. We're doing our thing. I get in touch with my commander back at the base via cell phone, by the way, because none of our shit works. And he's like, hey,
Also the most Army shit I've ever heard.
Bro,
Hey, comms are down?
Yeah.
Welcome to being in the Army.
all of our millions of dollars of comms equipment don't work. Dude, all the shit that we have to use. What's that stupid thing?
Your Blue Force tracker's frozen. Like,
Yeah, you know, like, but our Roshan cell phones work in the middle of the desert. You know, like, come on.
was it a little Nokia 5150?
Dude, yeah. Well, what I had done, dude, is I had taken the SIM card out of one and I had cut it and I put it into my old iPhone. So
it worked.
Dude, and it worked.
Okay.
So I had my iPhone 4 or whatever, and I always kept it in like my pocket up in like the top of my like cry shirt. So anyway, I called my commander. He's like, hey, I'm coming out with 2 platoons. He's like, follow those guys. So I had the birds, dude. They tracked those 2 people all the way back to a village over a click away, and they gave us a 10-digit grid. And I was like, you sit on that house. You make sure nobody leaves. I was like, when we get reinforcements and we're good to move, we're going after them. And so I called our company was Beast Company. So B6, he was like, hey, I'm coming out. We're going to go after him. Took like 4 hours, you know, so it's like morning the next morning. He finally gets there and he's like, hey, we got to return to base. And I was like, why? These birds have been sitting on thing. These guys are in the house or in their little shack or whatever they're in. I was like, let's go get them. And he's like, dude, I've already tried. He was like, it's been shut down by the commander. He's like, we've got to return to base. And dude, I mean, obviously, like super pissed, right? Like we don't know the status of our 5 dudes that just gotten blown up. Like they all got medevaced out. And then of course, like the brass above us said no. And it's like, what are we doing out here? Why are we even here if you're not going to let us do our jobs?
Or we can drive around and tell people try and kill us, and then we just let them go.
Right. So fast forward, right? Like a couple weeks later, that other company gets hit, loses 2 dudes. So then our company gets attached. Like, hey, we're not going to fly. We're not going to drive there. We're going to fly there, and we're going to find out because obviously it's a Taliban controlled, Al Qaeda controlled village or whatever. Like we're going to go down, show use of force, meet with the KLE or the key leader, and do our thing, show our intent, right? And so anyway, we land. It was an air assault in. We land. We get out. We start moving. Well, I knew, dude, I'm tracking on my thing. I'm the ground force commander. I'm on top. I'm chatting with, dude, I hated it. It had 2 radios.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like You have two people talking in your ear, and I'm trying to communicate with the platoons and their movement. Again, biggest threat's IED. So like we got dogs up front, we got the mine roller handheld things, and so our movement's really slow because like there's only one way into this village, and so we're taking our time. And of course, you know, the UAS is above us and they're watching us. And I'm like, hey, I'm at phase line, whatever, phase line white or whatever we called it. And the talk is like, yeah, you're running 6 minutes behind. And I was like, yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to make sure everybody gets there. And they're like, yep. And then, dude, it was 10 minutes later. We hadn't really moved because they're clearing the IEDs in front of us, like making sure we're not getting blown up. And then, hey, Beast 5, which was my call sign, like, what's the status? You guys aren't moving. And I was like, well, we're working a problem down here. And he's like, you guys got to move. You're running behind time. And I remember looking up in the sky and seeing the drone like flying over us. And I just gave him both middle fingers. Like, right?
Yeah.
And dude, at that point, I was like, bro, I can't do this job anymore. Like, I'm being micromanaged from a talk that's 4 hours away by people who aren't on the ground, who are overriding me on decisions I need to make as a combat leader. I was like, dude, I can't do this. Like, we're not doing anything productive, and we're just putting people's lives in danger for what, you know?
For their timeline.
For their timeline, dude. Yeah. And that really, those two incidences for me really kind of set my path to where I was like, I don't want to be an officer anymore. So anyway, we got home and my time, it was like, you can go to regiment. Some guys, I kind of missed the way. I was already a first lieutenant promotable by that time. So a lot of guys were going to regiment. I was like, I think I'm gonna go to selection. So I went to they had like a major who was like a recruiter for the base. And so we had this course and it was like a Q&A. And I sit in the room, I'll never forget, there's 19 other officers in the room. And I'm the only one in there with a tab, with a CIB, with like all my shit. And he's like giving it, he's like, hey, you gotta, here's the timeline. You gotta go to Bragg. You got to do about, a couple of years of SFAS. You got the Q course, or not SFAS, I'm sorry. But you got the SFAS and they have a couple of years of the Q course. He's like, you get back by about year 4, you're going to sit on staff. He goes, you do about 12 months of team time and you go back to staff. And I raised my hand.
It's a 5-year commitment for a very brief operational time.
And that's what I said. I raised my hand. I'm like, so just, and this dude was a major who was on the SIF team. Like he was legit. And I was like, so let me just get this straight. You want me to give up 5 years for 12 months of team time? And he was like, yeah, it kind of sucks. He's like, but if you're a stud, you can get a SIF team. And I was like, yeah, the math doesn't work out for me on that one. And that was it, dude. I didn't want to be an officer anymore. Dude, if you could have left me as a platoon leader, as a lieutenant with the dudes, I'd still be in today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I loved the job. I loved being deployed. I hated the bureaucracy of the Army. I hated being in garrison. I hated the train up cycle, like all that kind of just that big Army type stuff.
And there's just, bro, in today's Army, there's no way around that.
No, dude. And just like, man, dude, I remember sitting in my office one day and it was like the end of the month. It was like June or something. And the battalion XO comes at 5:30 at night and he's like, hey, we need to spend $900,000 by tomorrow. Right?
Yeah,
and he's like, because if we don't use it, we lose it.
We lose it next year. The fiscal year is coming and our budget is this. And it's like, I've talked about that a lot on the show because it's like every single federal entity is doing that same thing.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why our country is in massive fucking debt.
Great. do you want to know what I spent $900,000 on?
Oh, bro. I can't wait.
Dude, I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, well, it's only class, I think it was class 9. So it was like only this certain thing. And so I go to our supply guys and I was like, what do we need? And he was like, I don't know, man, like batteries? Bro, I ordered $900,000 of AA and AAA and D batteries.
That's the most government thing I've ever heard in my life, dude.
2 months later, it showed up in the back of our cough. Pallets showed up and they're like, who the fuck ordered pallets of batteries? And I was like, yeah, that was me.
Yeah, you said spend $1 million on something. Fuck,
just
dude.
Insane, man. So, dude, I was seeing what the big Army was about. My peers, dude, some solid dudes. Like one of them to this day is still my best friend. But the whole officer thing, man, it was like, these guys we're in meetings and they're talking about where they can go next, who they can align themselves with. Well, if they go over here and be an aide for this general, it'll set them up and they get to DC.
Well, they always say that, man. I think is like after captain, it just becomes politics.
You did exactly. And that was just it. I saw it and I was like, my career in the Army after a captain, because I got promoted to captain, and I was like, that's it. There's nothing else other than going back and taking a company and being a company commander for a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, and then you're right back to that same thing.
Same thing, dude. So I was like, if I'm gonna make the transition, I have to leave now.
Okay.
And that was why I was like, dude, did I want to go do the regiment or SVS thing? I absolutely did. But I was like, it's just not.
The juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point.
Yeah.
5 more years of your life
Yeah.
for, like you said, a very brief operational
As an officer,
window.
yeah, as an officer, there's no way. I was like, dude, I even consider, I was like, maybe I'll just resign my commission and go back in as an enlisted dude. And seriously,
I've heard
dude,
of people wanting to do that.
Yeah, dude, I did. I considered it back and forth. And then, dude, I was getting pressure at the time. It was my girlfriend, now ex-wife. She was like, you should get out. You're never home. Like, I never see you. Like, what are we going to do? And she worked a very good job. She was like the whole West Coast sales number one in sales for like the West Coast of her company.
That's who you're married to at the police.
Yes.
The police academy.
Yeah, at the police academy. Yeah, it's who you met.
Yeah.
And so, dude, one year, her end of the year bonus was more money than I made my entire year as a first lieutenant.
Well, bro, and that starts to become reality.
No,
too,
dude, it was a very hard reality where I was like, okay, am I going to stay in and be gone all the time and like not do shit
and live below the poverty line?
Right. When we have this financial opportunity to like go do something else. And so that played into my decision as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I went into the battalion commander's office because he had to know. He was like, hey, we're deploying again. We're going right back to the same location. He's like, I need to know if you're coming with us or if you're going to the captain's career course.
And like, actually, I'm just getting out.
Yeah,
bitch.
dude, I did. I walked in and I was like, actually, I'm getting out. And he was like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, dude, he begged me. He was like, listen, man, I'll give you the scout platoon just to come back with us. And I was like, sir, you can't. I'm a captain. Like, I can't be the scout platoon leader as a captain. He's like, I don't care. He's like, you come back with us. And I was like, man, I can't. Like,
yeah,
I got other priorities right now. So
then you made the decision to get out. You were still in Carson the whole time.
Still at Carson. Decided to get out, and then we moved out here. So
was that your wife's decision to move out here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So she was originally from Hawaii. When she got promoted, they're like, hey, your next position can either be in Denver or Portland. And so by Portland, they meant Vancouver, Washington.
Yeah.
For tax reasons, the office was in Vancouver. So came out here, really liked it. And we're like, hey, we're down for adventure. It brings her closer to home. And she's like, let's go. So we packed up, man, moved out here March of 2016. So, I needed something. I need a job, So I took a job as a operations manager at Target.
Jesus.
Oh, dude, bro. Just
fuck, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Like every time I reference a veteran moving into a career path that feels like a dead end to them, I reference Home Depot.
Yeah,
It's
dude.
like, hey, sorry if you work at Home Depot. I'm not trying to tear down what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you're a ground force commander in combat to now you're at Target.
Dude, fish out of water, man.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
So I should have known. I showed up, dude. I met my boss. I'm not going to say his name. Fourth standard of Ranger Creed, right? Like neatness, address, and care of equipment should be those to others to emulate. Dude, the typical like 50 pounds overweight, polo hanging out the back, pants are 6 sizes too big with dress shoes that he bought at Ross. And I show up and I'm supposed to be working for this guy. And, dude, instantly.
It's the worst idea you've ever had.
Bro. But again, the ex-wife was like, dude, go into corporate world. Like, you're going to be fine. Like, learn a new skill. I was like, dude, I can do this. This will be easy. Like, they're
not
paying
only
me pretty
could
well.
you do it, you could be the fucking best dude that's ever filled that position in the history of Target.
For sure, right? So I show up. And I remember one of the first things I do, the team meetings in the morning. And so one of the things I had to do was give like the active shooter response in case somebody came in before the store opened. And I remember they're like, you have to read this.
So they wanted you to give the active shooter briefing?
Yeah.
But not from an area of expertise, just regurgitating what this document says.
Because I was the operations manager. I was in charge of the whole store, right? And so I remember sitting there and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's all incorrect. That's not what I would do. Yeah. So they're like, you have to read this, but it's policy. You have to do it. And so I'm sitting in front of this group in the morning and I read it to them. And then I was like, oh, and by the way, don't do any of that. I was like, if you're going to do it, just get the fuck out the exit and run. I was like, you guys are unarmed. I was like, or like fight them if you need to. But I was like, don't do any of these things that this piece of paper just told you to do. And then like my boss looks at me and I was like, I don't think I'm going to fit in well here. So anyway, what happened, I'm running the operations, dude. And these guys are all like part-time people, man. Like they're like college students working 13 hours a week, trying to make gas and for food and put gas in their car. And they would come into work, and to save on payroll and to like make the numbers look good, they would have them come in, and then they would send them home. And then they would push all the work to the salaried employees. And so like the whole back end of where trucks would be coming in and all this stuff, and they would send our dudes home, and be like, we would have to go and like stock the back room to make it look like they were being profitable, to save on payroll.
So then you saw very quickly that the corporate world is this big dysfunctional shell game too.
I made it a couple months, and I got into a massive argument with my boss, like yelling at him about how, like, where I come from, we take care of our people. You're fucking our people. This is my team. Like, you can't be doing this to people, you know? I was like, you wonder why people don't come in here and are unhappy. Like, this is why you're not treating them with respect. You're not, you know what I mean? Like, this is where they, dude, I got into it. And he's like, we'll agree to disagree. That was essentially what I got.
Just give him a copy of Extreme Ownership. Like, dude, read this.
Yeah. It didn't exist. Right. But of course he's like the general manager of the store. And
what does his position pay a year? Do you even know?
Oh, dude, it was a 6-figure. It was like 120 something.
Okay.
Oh yeah, pretty decent for managing a store. You know. So I remember I got home that night and I looked at my wife and I was like, I think I have to quit because I'm definitely gonna get fired. And she's like, do what you got to do. So at this time, what had happened was I had already started the backgrounds process with police academies, and so the police agencies were reaching out to my employer. And
so you already knew this was just a holdover.
Yeah,
thing.
and then they also knew too that I wasn't going to stay that long. They knew I had other things going.
You also don't want being terminated.
Exactly.
On the record,
especially when I'm going through a backgrounds process with police agencies. And so I showed up Monday morning, and I didn't even take my jacket off. I walked straight into his office, and I was like, hey, by the way, I'm putting my 2 weeks in. And he looks at me and smiles and goes, that's great because your replacement's already here. He was like, you're going to work the rest of the day today and train him up. And he's like, and then we'll just pay you out. And I was like, cool.
Roger that.
Sounds good to me. So I spent the next couple months unemployed, just doing like projects at the house, working through the backgrounds process with police agencies, kind of did the shotgun approach down south. I knew we had to stay geographically to the Vancouver area, just because of my ex-wife's job. Yeah, man, I mean, I applied to Portland. That didn't go well. I remember.
Thank God.
Bro, I remember, I'm sitting in the backgrounds and he's like, do you own an assault rifle? And I was like, you mean an AR-15? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, lots of them. And he like takes a highlighter and like highlights it. He's like, you ever seen combat? And I was like, yeah. And like highlights it. And I was like, oh, there's no fucking way I'm passing this. Dude, next day I get an email. I still have it. Yeah, you've come back.
Thank you for applying. You're not what we're looking for.
Yeah, you've come back too high risk based off of your CPI or whatever the psychological exam they gave me and your background. And I was like, cool,
Even though you're going to issue me one of these terrifying rifles, you're going to expect me to know how to use it, know how to employ it, carry it with me in my patrol car everywhere. But because I have one of my own, there's something wrong with you.
Yep.
That's what I fucking hate about these people. It's like, as long as all this is on behalf of the government, it's all good.
Good to go.
But if you use that same tool to protect you and your wife, there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
Like, fuck these people, man.
Dude, no, man. So anyway, I ended up getting picked up at the sheriff's office down there, Clark County Sheriff's Office. Dude, they brought me in and they were like, you're exactly who we're looking for.
Yeah.
Like free thinker.
And typically the sheriff's offices have a little better vibe to them than the city.
They did.
Departments.
The reputation for them at that time was, you don't fuck with the sheriff's office. They come and like they mean business, and like they had a very high FTO dropout rate. Like they only kept people who were solid.
Who came with you? I
had 3 other people come with me. 2 of them who were still there. One of them didn't make it through FTO.
Okay.
Yeah. One of them now is in it's called SIU, which is the special it's like our undercover drug unit. And then the other one is like he's a DT instructor at the academy now.
Okay.
So 3 of us made it out of the 4 that went.
One of my black belts just asked if he could do some assault bike interval training while we're recording. I was like, yeah, it won't pick it up. You hear it picking it up.
Yeah.
So if you hear that, that's what's going on.
That's good. He's getting after it.
He's also you never guess it by his demeanor because
Yeah.
he's just a very low. Hey, hi, I'm Dan. Right?
Yeah.
It's the most dangerous fucking dude I know.
I shook his hand and I was like, oh yeah. No, I knew.
Fucking terrifying.
Yeah, dude, I know.
Terrifying fucking individual.
Yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah.
And so the sheriff's office was happy to pick you up.
Yeah,
then.
dude, they picked me up. It took me 14 months to work through the process.
Jesus,
Yeah,
dude.
just the typical like backgrounds, interviews, civil service exam interviews, and then rule of 3, and it just a rule of 5 or whatever it is now. And yeah, man, it took me 14 months to get hired on. So
if any private entity ever operated like government entities operate, they would be out of business in no time.
Yeah, instantly.
It's just fucking, it's preposterous.
Yeah. I mean, I hire people now in my company in like a day or 2.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And you probably have a fucking stricter fucking standards.
Oh, dude,
than they have.
it's insane. Yeah, I mean, coming from that world, yeah, that's the great part. Now I have a culture where I'm like, hey, this is the standard. If they don't meet it, they're not even welcome here.
So then you arrive at the academy in, was it July of 2017, right? I think so.
Dude, I don't remember.
I think we were in the academy over the summer. Maybe I'm fucking wrong.
I want to no.
Didn't we
no,
graduate around Christmas?
Yeah, because I started with the agency in August, and then I went to the academy a couple weeks later. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, so maybe in September.
Oh,
like
okay.
September 1st or something like that.
That's right. I got the same thing. I got hired in July, and then we got an academy date a few months later. So that checks out.
So yeah, same thing. They're like, hey, you're going to the academy. It's up in Burien. It's 4.5, 5 months long or whatever. Like, good luck. And I instantly I started butting heads with the training sergeant. I'm not gonna get into it with her, but she was like, hey, you have to take we have one company or one county car that you guys can all carpool up in. And I was like, I'm just gonna drive my POV. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to. She's like, well, we can't reimburse you for that. I'm like, no, I understand.
Whatever.
I was like, I just want the freedom to be able to go and do stuff on all my days off, you know? So yeah, that's where I met you. Walked in, dude, and I was like, sizing people up and like, who, and I instantly saw you and I was like, okay, he's the guy in the class. I was like, okay, now I know. But dude, I coming from the military, I knew just to be the gray man and just like, it was instantly, I was like, this is a community college. Like, I'm just going to shut my mouth, not say anything.
Yeah.
Take the exams, do whatever they're requiring me to do so I can pass to move on to something else.
Well, and it was I mean, there were some good leaders there.
For sure.
There were some good aspects of the academy, but there was also an element of it that was the typical government shit show.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was also going through just some personal issues at the time, which I never aired out to anybody. It's funny because I look back on that and I was like, I could have given more because there was a lot of our academy mates that weren't really up to snuff on things.
No, yeah, they could use like some mentorship.
Yeah, I could have leaned in more than I did, and sometimes I look back on that and regret it. But at the same time, that was the phase of life I was going through. What I was going through, and do you remember the block of instructions that we had on DUI?
No.
Do you remember that by chance?
No, I just remember the wet lab that we did.
That's right. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Do you notice nystagmus in their eyes?
Bringing in friends and getting them hammered so we can do the stagos on them. Yeah.
No, we had a block of instruction on DUI, and I forget the guy's name, but it was very apparent he didn't give a fuck about the block of instruction. And he was up there in front of the class, and it's just kind of like, hey, watch this video. I don't remember exactly how he articulated it, but he let the class know, I don't really care about this. I don't care what's going on. We're just going through the motions here, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So me and Tanner and Briegel, who are they're both still at the port.
Are they? Good.
And dude, I don't remember exactly how we did the report, but we took the shortcut.
Yeah.
It's basically like fucking copy and paste, change some names, like whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when Grossman found out, he was so mad at us.
Yeah. So disappointed.
Yeah, and it's like, bro, we're meeting your guys' level of instruction. We're giving back what you guys are pouring in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, go talk to your cadre if you want this to be serious. Because it's bro, when you show up to a training block of instruction and literally preface it with like, I don't really care about this. We're kind of checking the block.
Yeah.
And then you expect excellence from your people. And I remember that rubbed me the wrong way. But at the same time, I'm the student. What am I going to do? Right.
Yeah. You just have to do it.
Just have to do it. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I expected it to be vastly different. I expected some PT standards
Yeah, me too.
that were pretty much non-existent.
Didn't exist after day one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, and I think we only did we did that deck of cards workout like one time.
I think it was the second day or whatever because somebody messed up. Remember, they're like, "We're gonna show you," and they put us in the gym and they did deck of cards. And I was like, "This is a joke."
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well,
but I remember that was when I knew you were a homie because I remember I don't know if you remember Tack Bennett.
Of course.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. And I look at you and I was like, "Dude, she's hot." And you're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Okay, he's a fucking homie." I was like,
I'd hit it.
yeah.
All right. Sorry if it gets back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Stephanie.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Stephanie, yeah.
Sorry if we thought you were a attractive young lady.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
No, not
Well,
at all.
she was actually one of the few people that took fitness very serious.
Dude, for sure.
I remember she was into like even fitness competitions and whatnot.
Yeah, dude, and mentorship. I had a
Yeah.
lot of conversations with her one-on-one outside the classroom where it was just like, I mean, we're still at the academy, but it was like, she's like, "Hey, like, just kind of get through this stuff. Like, it's going to be very different when you get out." Like, and she's like, "You're doing a good job. You know, you're doing all the right things." So she was good. She was one of the better tacks up there. For
Yeah.
sure.
Do you remember Esham?
No.
I guess she gave the middle finger to her agency through the COVID era, and I just recently found that out.
Oh, really?
And she was a good tack too. She
Yeah,
wasn't. Remember how they were assigned to different platoons or whatever?
Yeah, different classes.
So she wasn't part of our class, but there was a lot of crossover
Yeah,
when
she'd
they
come
were
in to
doing.
fill in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I need to get her on.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
So we go through the academy, and then you get. What was your guys' like FTO or PTO program?
Man, so we graduated the academy in January, and then we had it was like a 3-phase. Each month it was, or each phase was like a month long, and then we had like a shadow phase. It was like a 2-week like they're there in plain clothes, or like they're there in a separate car watching you.
Yeah,
dude, it was awesome because like so anyway, FTO for me was like, I mean, I just shut up and did what they told me. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of do what they ask.
Part of me fucking hated it, but they never knew that I hated it.
Yeah. Oh no, dude, they knew I didn't like it. I mean, dude, I was stressed, and like you're just trying to please everybody.
Well, bro, I remember one time we called it PTO, but it's the same program, right? And you rotate through, work a couple, like a night shift, a day shift, and just get some different experience. And we went to Starbucks in the airport, and I'm carrying my coffee. And the fucking dude leans over and goes, "Never carry your coffee in your gun hand." And I wanted to just be like, dude, watch what I could do if something popped off. Watch this. I could drop it, and then I could draw my gun.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, for you to say that to me, knowing that I have fucking 14 combat deployments, just shows how out of fucking touch you are with being in a leadership position. But I don't get to say any of that.
No.
Just
no.
oh, Roger that.
Oh, yes,
Switch
sir.
it to my left hand.
Right, exactly.
Okay, now I can fucking fight and drink coffee.
Yeah.
Fuck
well,
you.
my experience was very different. I mean, I got there and they're like, "All right, let's see what this dude's made of." I mean, it was instantly to the fire. My first phase was days.
Well, you were doing real police work too.
Yeah,
I was
man.
at the port.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, so my first phase was days. The first month, it was just basic, like, report. I mean, day shift work. It's not super important. But I remember one day I was working. It was he was a North County car, which is like up in our like rural part. And we like a bank robbery comes out down towards the city, and there's like tones, and the dude's got a gun, and he's like jumping fences and like running. And I was like, "Let's go," and he's like, "No," and I was like, "Come on, man, this is policing, you know." Well, let me backtrack. My first day on, I was doing geography. They wanted me to get to know, because I'm not from this area.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, you need to know the geography." And so they take me out with one of the traffic sergeants. And dude, we weren't out more than a couple hours. And like tones go out. Dude stabs his girlfriend in the face with a knife, carjacks a car. And he looks, dude, I'll never forget it. He like, "Get out of the driver's seat." I get out of the driver's seat. He jumps in the I get in the passenger seat. He takes over his driving. We start running code there. And he looks over at me. He's like, "Is your gun loaded?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You got a round?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Because if we see this guy, we're going to kill him." And I was like, "All right." That was my day one, dude.
Okay.
Day one on the job. And then I start field training. And then, dude, it was right into the fire. Like, then I got on to swings. And then I went to graves. But as soon as I got into swings, they were like, "Hey, can this guy keep up? Can he put up? Can he fight? Can he like do the thing?" And so my second phase of FTO, love him to death. He's a good buddy of mine. He was actually just one of my sergeants when I left. But he was like, "Hey, we're going to get you into a fight. Like, we need to see you fight." dude.
Yeah. No shit like that went on at the port.
Yeah, right. So, dude, it's my first week on working swings, and we get an unwanted trespass at a Chevron. Dude's in there smoking meth in a bathroom, and we open up the door.
All right, now you're talking about my area of expertise.
Smoking meth. Yeah.
Smoking meth in the bathroom.
So we knock on the door, and he opens up to his all the pre-fight indicators, dude. Looking through you, fists are clenched. He's got this giant metal spoon in his hand, and my FTO looks at me, and I look at him, and he was like, "Get him, bro." And dude, it's a brawl. Like, dude ends up cutting my right eye, punching me in the nose. I get a bloody nose. We take this dude, we like yard him through this like massive end cap. Powerades go everywhere. I look up, my sergeant's gouging out his eyes. Like, dude, it was like, yeah. Anyway, we get him up, we get him into the car, and he was like, "Good work. Like, you're gonna make it here." You know. What was scary about that is that we end up getting out of jail, and on the way back, my trainer's like, "Hey, we need to go to the hospital." And I was like, "Why?"
Oh, he's Hep C or AIDS
Bro,
or something.
He had HIV and Hep C.
He had all. Okay, he had all of it.
Yeah, and he was like, "You got a bit of a contact." So anyway, I had to go to the hospital and do that, bro. You think about like getting stabbed or like shot or on the job or whatever, but like that was the first time I was like, "Oh, there's like other ways your life can be drastically impacted." I mean,
and bro, and think about like you're fucking dealing with one of the lowest fucking just the scum of society.
Yeah.
Smoking drugs in a bathroom, fighting cops, and that's the guy that fucking ends your life,
Yep, dude.
over some fucking drug addict disease.
Yes,
dude.
man. And again, when you're new, it's fun. You're like, "Oh,
Of course.
this is exciting, dude." But you know, going home and then my wife at the time going to the hospital and being like, "Hey, can't have sex without a condom. Like, you guys probably should." You know what I mean? She's like looking at me like,
What the fuck are we doing?
yeah. She looks at me. She's like, "What the fuck are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing?" She's like, "First of all, I wanted you to get out of the military, and now I never see you. You're always working nights. You know what I mean? Like, you work weekends and shit. Like, I'm Monday through Friday." She's like, "I don't like this. I want to move home." And that was the kind of the start for her and I.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, where it was just like, "Hey, this isn't gonna really work for us long term." So.
Not that we need to go into like the details of your personal life, but do you attribute that to the career then?
Oh my God, I do 100%.
Okay.
She told me. I mean, it gets way more in depth. Like I'll get into it. I have no problem sharing on it because that relationship ended solely because of this career and like my decision to stay in it and into the depth that I went into it. Yeah, for sure. Because she was telling me constantly, "You're never home. I never see you. What are you doing? Like, I don't feel like I have a partner. Like, I have nobody around. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have any kids. Like,
Yeah.
like, what are we doing?" And because, you know, I very quickly transitioned to SWAT, and like then I was gone even more on a pager. I was working swings. Like, I was never home. I was working 11 days straight. Like, it was just nonstop. So,
And bro, and when I talk about this, it's the same thing with being a soldier. It's like, all right, on its surface, no, it's honorable. You're serving your community. Your job is to be a protector. Like, on paper, everything looks like, oh, Brenda's doing the right thing.
right.
Your woman has her needs that are simply not being met.
Yeah. And I wasn't meeting them.
And it doesn't matter what you are or aren't doing. If her needs as a woman are not being met, this becomes inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, I remember the first day where I was like, "Oh, she's gonna have a problem with this." We went down to the CrossFit gym, CrossFit Fort Vancouver, massive. I mean, they're nationally known, and we were training there. And I just got in there, we were getting ready to warm up, and my pager goes off, and she looks at me, and I was like, "I gotta go." I was like, I got a SWAT call out. And I was like, "I gotta take the car." And she's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?"
Yeah, Uber home.
And I was like, "I don't know, get a ride home from a friend, but I gotta go." And she looked at me like, "How fucking dare you?" You know? And dude, looking back on that and taking ownership
Bro,
on that.
it's almost like abandonment,
Yeah,
dude.
it is. And she told me for so long, man, like, "Hey, I need you here." And I was just my head was so far up my ass with work and being that guy that I didn't see it. And so, like, how can I fucking blame her for leaving? You know what I mean? Like,
well, and bro, like, you know, all these agencies that we work for, I've experienced it twice, where it's like, "Hey, family first, we'll take care of you. If you need to prioritize your family, we understand. Like, we got your back."
yeah.
Until you actually need to prioritize your family, and then they're like, SWAT call out.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Like, we need you
doesn't
to,
matter.
hey, mandatory overtime shift. Like, all that stuff just, it's easy to say they're going to support you, but then when you need support, in my experience, it's not there like you think it's going to
Well,
be.
and that became very apparent with me as I started getting injured with the agency, and like that I'm just a number to them. Yeah.
How long did she weather the storm?
So anyway, I get off field training, and I go straight to Graves. First year on, I was like, dude, I'm loving it, dude. Every night's, I mean, I'm with guys getting in OISs, like we're fighting people, we're taking bad guys to jail, we're turning to like it's just the job. It's just awesome, right? Your first couple years on, you're like, this is amazing. And then I wasn't even off probation yet, and the SWAT guys were like, hey, you need to come try out for the team. You need to keep trying out for the team. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready. Dude. I'm only a year, And they're like, no, dude, you'd be a great fit. And I did it kind of out of a place of like, all right, if I'll just do it, get these guys off my back, I'll probably fail something. Nobody passes it their first selection anyway. And and then I give me another year of coming back. Cause I didn't feel like I was ready. I was like, man, I'm a 1 year cop. Like I'm just figuring out what I'm doing out here. Like,
Yeah, but SWAT's more like, at least in my experience and with the SRT team, it's like taking down buildings, doing stuff that's familiar to like a soldier's approach to things.
They were spot on, man. Like I went and tried out, and of course I got on the first time. I tried out, and I was like,
fuck, dude, I'm just too damn good.
Yeah, no, dude, not at all, dude. I totally bombed the shoot. I think I passed the shoot by like just the minimum standard.
Well, so. If it was anything like I sometimes refer to it as SWAT, but the Marshal Service, they call it SRT, right?
Yeah,
but very similar. You're the team that gets the high risk warrants or whatever, like, and it's not only, obviously you have to be fit, you have to be able to shoot, but they're also looking for just the good fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they're probably just running a selection just to get you on.
Yeah.
They already fucking knew.
Yeah. And, but to answer your question, she made it about 2 years.
Okay.
So I went straight, I worked graveyard that whole first year, got off probation. In the same month that I got off probation, I got on SWAT, and then I went to swing shift. And then swings was 3:30 to 3:15 a.m. And our warrant service.
Oh,
yeah, dude, no, awful.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, dude. And our warrant services were always at like, our briefs would be at 4 a.m. And we'd usually hit at like 5:30. And so I would work a 12-hour shift, stay on for 30 minutes, drive down, meet for the brief. So I'd end up working like 18 to 20 hours. And I'd come home, sleep for 4 or 5 hours.
Fucking repeat,
dude, just nonstop. And this is 2019 at this time. So things are still like really active. We have a lot of stuff going on down there. Vancouver is, people think it's like, oh, it's just a suburb. Dude, it's Portland. It's North Portland. So we were super busy. Loved it, dude. And I remember like, you're with that team. I'm back in the team.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, back with the guys. And it's just like, I was like, dude, I'm getting a lot of flack from my wife, but like everyone on the team's like, yeah, dude, you just get another wife. It's fine. You know what I mean? Like, everyone here's been divorced once, if not twice. It's just part of the process.
It's such a dark way like to approach it. But at the same time, it's like, what do? We just like compartmentalize and hey, this is what I am now.
Yeah. So I kept grinding, and that ended in, well, October of 2020 was COVID. The whole COVID thing really, once that kicked off down in Portland, I ended up working way more than I ever should have. Just because of everything that was going on in the Portland area. COVID and like the requirements with deputies and our lack of staffing and people leaving and retiring because of everything that was going on. I stayed on and I just worked. So
fuck, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, that was 2020. And then dude, the next several years were a blur, man. I mean, 1 year, I think I worked 664 hours of overtime. You just get used to that life of waking up on patrol, working patrol, SWAT call outs. I'd have 1 or 2 days off a week, maybe if I was lucky, because you had 2 days of SWAT training a month on top of your patrol schedule that you're doing.
Yeah. And
it just becomes this cycle where all you're doing is working, work. I started, so it was March of 2019, and I finished a workout, and we were flying to Iceland for my birthday. And I remember sitting on the plane, and like my legs were being weird. They were like shaking. And I was like, dude, I fucking got after that workout. That was awesome. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, dude, like I'm going to pay for this one for the next 3 days. And I just started not feeling good. I was like, what's going on with my legs, man? Like I feel weak. Like I can't. Anyway, we get landed in Iceland. I couldn't get out of bed, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And then I'm like, dude, maybe there's something like neurologically wrong with me. Like, so that the trip really wasn't, it was great, but I was like more concerned. Something physically happened to me that I'm not sure what. And, but anyway, I come back, I go and I get a bunch of MRIs done to my back, and they're like, in your brain. Cause they're obviously worried, like, oh, you have MS or some sort of like neurological issue.
Yeah.
They run everything, and you're like, no, man, you're good. They're like, you have a lump in your head. We don't know what that is. And so I went this period for a couple of weeks where I thought I had brain cancer. Cause like, we have something in your brain, you don't know. And it ended up being nothing. I just have a bone growth on the top of my head. That, right? Like they do a CT scan. They're like, oh, just kidding. It's benign.
Yeah, it's just
nothing.
a bone.
Yeah.
So
I was like, cool. Now, so I'm not dying. Dude, just at that point, it was like Groundhog's Day every day. COVID hit. Everybody started leaving. People who could retire retired. The whole agency, policing, I feel like that drastically changed policing in general. I remember the day the George Floyd thing happened. We were at SWAT training on the range, and we were watching the video, and we're all like, this will fundamentally change policing forever.
It made everybody fucking hate you.
Yep. Oh, dude.
And the media supported the narrative. Yep. And it was an intentional thing to cause chaos nationwide.
And it worked.
It fucking worked.
Yep.
And when guys like us were seeing it for what it was when it was playing out, we're fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, dude, and so we had so all that happened, and I was like, oh, it's Vancouver, man. It's Portland. Like, obviously all the riots started happening in Portland, and shit was getting wild. We weren't really a part of that. They didn't want us down there. We had different rules and different laws up in here in Washington.
Well, I mean, being commissioned in Washington, is that even an option?
Yeah, man. We went down there all the time.
Okay.
My first spike on a car was in Gresham, Oregon. We went down there all the time. Dude, I got
because what do they call that? Interagency reciprocity.
Yeah.
But that, I guess you guys had worked some deal with reciprocity across state lines too.
Yeah, with Multnomah County and with
that
Portland.
sounds like some fucking gray area to me.
Dude. Yeah, there was a couple times we went down there to help out with like a SWAT assist, and our team leader looked back and be like, "Hey,
try not shoot someone.
Don't even put a round in your rifle. Like these guys don't even have PC, and we're out here looking for these guys. Like we're not doing shit, right? So anyway, there's reciprocity, but it started building up. COVID started happening, and our agency didn't really have any info on it, man. It was just like, hey, go do it. So my squad was a group of studs, man. It was my sergeant who he actually works for me now. He's a fucking solid dude. He was a 20-year MCU guy, 20-year SWAT, just 6'4" jiu-jitsu guy, just a massive guy. And then I had on our team 3 SWAT guys. One of them was a former Green Beret, former GRS dude, K9 handler who was a Marine, scout sniper. Like we all knew who we were, and we just grouped together. And we got after it. And the agency didn't necessarily like that. We started asking a lot of questions, pushing the boundaries a little bit on stuff. Dude, that first week in March of COVID, we were like, what the fuck is this? Nobody knew, right? So like me being me, I was like, well, I have this gas mask here that SWAT gave me. I have an NBC canister on it. I know that shit will clear out anything. So I put that thing on there, and dude, I'll never forget it. We went to a call because they started screening people for COVID. So like a call came out, and it was like a domestic violence, and they were like, oh yeah, she's COVID positive. And so me and my Green Beret buddy were like,
put on your NBC
mask.
We
put our NBC mask on, dude. We started walking up the house. She started screaming and running down the street. She was like, ah! Right? So the next day, dude, the agency sends out a mass email like, hey, cops can't be showing up wearing NBC masks to calls. Like, it creates hysteria and panic, right? But we're like, hey, we don't know. We don't know what this is.
Well, and they also made it out to be the fucking bubonic plague.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
like the fear mongering began instantly.
Right.
And I don't care how fucking switched on you were. There was a process where you had to see what was being told and then actually see what was happening before you could connect the dots and be like, this isn't adding up.
And dude, it was very quick, man. I mean, it was almost instantaneous when the first month I was like, oh, this isn't what they're saying it is. And we had all those fires down there too. So everything was like burning. It was like raining ash. And they're like, you can't wear a mask. It doesn't prevent smoke. But then they're like, the smoke particles are 3 times larger than COVID. And I was like, well, wait a second. If it doesn't screen out smoke, then it's not screening out. You know what I mean? Like you start asking these questions and
but then remember, if you question anything like that, it's just a knuckle dragging ranger.
Right.
Are you a fucking doctor? Are you a virologist?
Yeah.
Like everybody had like If you were in a medical remember nurses?
Oh yeah.
If you were a nurse, you could basically say whatever you want.
Yep.
Because I know.
Absolutely.
It's like, bitch, you don't know anything.
Yeah, dude.
You don't know anything other than what you're being told, and you're regurgitating it, acting like a fucking know-it-all.
Yeah.
It was a gross period
Dude,
of time.
it was a money grab, man. I remember we went to like this like AD. It was a dead person, and she was dead. I'm sitting there with my partner, and we also on SWAT, and we're like, yeah, she's dead. And they call the hospital, and they're like, bring her in. And they're like, but we don't, like, she's dead. And they're like, yeah, we know. And so, they load her in the back of an. Dude, I'm not kidding you. I remember sitting out front with fire guys and being like,
what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Because this isn't what we do.
Dude,
yeah.
The ambulance didn't even put its lights on. Just loaded her in the back of an ambulance and just drove to the hospital because they know it's a COVID death inside the hospital and getting the money. And dude, so instantly you see it, right? And like, and again, now we're the evil guys. We're the bad people out there. Everyone, dude, we're driving around just flipping us off and just like, dude,
yeah, bro,
right?
like that whole thing. And I'm like, dude, someone actually posted something yesterday of Derek Chauvin taking a knee on George Floyd, and it's like, bro, I do meaner shit to people on these jiu-jitsu mats every night than that.
Yeah, dude, bro, our LVNR, so like the compression on the neck, that was a level 1 use of force for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, hey, you're under arrest. Fuck you.
Yeah,
out to sleep, dude. Dude, my buddy.
The nicest way to resolve a non-compliant suspect.
Dude, we had a 7 foot. I'm not kidding you. 7 foot Vietnam veteran dude who was at the Rainier Springs, which is like a mental hospital in Vancouver, and he thought he was in Vietnam. It was like an assault thing or whatever. And he stood up, dude, clenched his fist, ready to fight. And dude, my partner jumped on the bed, put his leg up like we're playing chicken in the fucking hospital, or not the hospital, in the pool. Jumped on my back, like he put his legs down in front of me and choked this dude out. Bro, dude, he was literally snoring before his head hit the pillow.
Yeah.
He went down and he woke up in handcuffs and he's like, what happened? And we're like, oh, bro, it's all good, man. Well, let's get you to the hospital.
And now, and I don't know how it was with your agency, there are some agencies that are saying you can't LVNR even in deadly force scenarios.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Well,
yeah.
Wait, this dude's trying to kill me, and I can smash his face in with a brick or stick a knife into his jugular, but I can't choke him out.
Right. Yeah, dude. Just anyway, my agency was still went to a lethal use of force, so it's like you could use it if you're at that level.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and dude.
But think about even that, dude. I can shin kick this dude in the temple if it's just a fight, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I can't choke him out. Yeah. But that's, bro, I mean, fuck, dude. We could talk for the next hour. That's what happens when policy gets dictated by people that don't know how to do the job.
Well, and that's what's happened in law enforcement. Is
Yes.
They've taken a complete risk mitigation piece for, dude, this is what I hear just until recently from everybody. Hey, it's their emergency, not ours.
What do you mean?
Meaning like, hey, it's not our emergency to get there and solve their problems. It's their emergency.
Oh,
dude.
So what are we? Why are we even here then,
bro? No, exactly. Why are we here? And that's a couple of years ago. I started to question, why are we here? Like, what am I doing? It's the initial issue. The place where I started having issues was manning and staffing. So COVID's burning, dude. We're working 24/7. There's no people. I'm working all the time. And they're like, hey, we have a staffing crisis. Like everyone's working overtime. What are our minimums? Dude, I'm coming on to shift and there'll be like 1 to 2 swing cars per side of the county. And so they had this big meeting and they bring in like the undersheriff and the commanders and we're all sitting in this thing. And they're talking about minimum standards. Like, what are our minimums going to be? We need to have like a standard. And I raise my hand and I'm like, hey, I know a way to solve the problem. And they're like, how? And I was like, start making the commanders pull shifts.
Yeah.
And dude, I'll never forget it. The commander looks at me and he was like, what? And I was like, well, the world I come from, man, if there's a shortage in the mission, it doesn't matter what rank you have.
Ask nothing of your men. You're unwilling to do yourself.
Dude, exactly. And I was like, the world I come from, man, if that machine gun needs to be manned, it doesn't matter if you have a bar on your chest or you're wearing a corporal rank. You fill that spot because that's what the mission requires. If you're going to come out here and tell us that we need to have 3 minimum on duty, and there's only 2, and you can't get anybody else to come in.
Yeah, where does that leave you?
It goes up the chain. It goes to the next person. Well, the sergeants. Well, there's no sergeants. Okay, well then now that commander who's sitting at the precinct behind the computer, you better get in your car, dude, and come down and start pushing a beat with us. But they don't.
That made you fucking public enemy number one
instantly, like that.
instantly.
And that was when
Because you asked someone to step outside of their comfort zone a little bit,
it, dude.
and put the agency first.
Yep.
What an asshole, dude.
Yeah, and I was probably like year 4 on and 3 or 4 on at that point. Still same thing with SWAT, but again, we had built a reputation with our squad where it was like, I mean, dude, my sergeant was like, hey, go out there, arrest bad people, and take no shit from people.
Yeah.
Like that was it. That was the intention. It was like, unless we were making felony level arrests, he didn't give a shit. And dude, they kept coming back to us. Hey, your stats are low. Your stats are low. Your stats are low. You're not making enough traffic stops. You're not writing enough tickets. And then I went and pulled the stat. Dude, I pulled from the records all of our arrests. Of the 5 guys on our squad, all in the top 10 for felony level arrests in the county. But because we didn't have enough traffic stops.
Well, bro, and that's the thing, because cops can literally pad their, I don't want to call it their record. What do you even call that? Like, just, I guess just
their
padding your stats.
Yeah, padding your stats.
You know, it's like, oh, show me out with 1 on like whatever.
Field contacts, dude.
And it's just giving some old lady directions.
Yep. Absolutely.
Literally.
Yeah.
I would see that shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I could play this game of nonsense and look like a high performer, or just do your fucking job.
Right. And that's where I started to like struggle, because I'm like, hey, we're out here
doing the real shit.
We should be focusing on the people, like the community terrorists who are causing problems in our community. They should get our sole attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, no, man, like, just do traffic stops and write some tickets, and like, don't damage some cars, and like, just be good. You know, as long I started to kind of see through the weeds of it and being like, oh, okay, you just kind of go along to get along. Don't create any problems for the sergeant or for the commanders, and like, you'll be fine. But like, dude, we weren't. We were getting in pursuits. We were chasing armed dudes with felony level warrants, right? Like wrecking cars, doing police work, you know? And so it just created this reputation for our squad to kind of where it was like, hey, we got called like Shanaker's boys. That was the name of our sergeant.
Uh-huh.
And we
just loose cannons.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like they question us. They don't fall in line. Like they're out there just kind of doing their own thing. And then
a fucking title to wear with honor, dude.
Dude, we did.
Yeah.
And we did. And so, yeah, dude, it just, the next couple of years kept going on. I started really having a lot of like medical issues at that point. Dude, it was weird. I couldn't breathe out of my left side of my nose. And I had like a bunch of like bone growth and stuff. I think maybe I sent you a picture about that a couple years ago. But oh no, I think I posted something online, and you're like, I had the same surgery or something.
Oh,
All
yeah.
the shit coming out of my nose. Dude, I ended up like coding on the table. I stopped breathing, so they brought me back, and they're like, dude, you scared? I was like 33 at the time. And then I was doing jiu-jitsu one night. I'm just a white belt, man.
Were you at the base?
No, I've heard great things about them. No,
Okay.
I was at BMA.
I'm not familiar.
Jeremiah Rodman.
Okay.
And was rolling. I was like, hey, bro, 20-30%, man. Like I'm still got some weird stuff going on my hips. Nobody really knows what's going on with me. I'm like, I'm just trying to get through and just trying to learn some stuff. And dude, two weeks into it, he's like really excited, and he grabs the back of my head and pulls it down, and here. And I like kind of shake it off. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like it kind of hurt, but whatever. So we finished rolling. I went home that night, and I ate some dinner and took some ibuprofen. I was like, man, my neck's really getting stiff. Well, I wake up the next morning to a page out, a call out, and I can't get to my phone. I can't move out of bed. I can't pick my head up off the pillow. Can't move. And I was like, oh fuck. So I'm trying to get to my phone to like silence the page, and I can't. So I end up like sliding myself. I take my right arm and I like slide myself out of bed, and I go to stand up, and just like I lose vision on my left eye. Lightning goes out my left side of my head, down my left side of my body. And I was like, that's not good. And so I did what I could. I put my clothes on, and I didn't even put my vest on. I just picked it up and threw it in my patrol car, drove code down to the
You think you're still gonna go fucking
bro,
serve the warrant?
Yeah, dude, I still went. I went, dude.
Okay.
I showed up, and I walk in, dude, and I can't move my whole upper body.
Yeah,
like,
move around like fucking Frankenstein.
Yeah, and like the team leader looks at me, he's like,
What do you do?
what's wrong with you,
Yeah,
dude? And
everything.
I was like, dude, I don't know. I just woke up like this, you know? And
That's the most jiu-jitsu thing I've ever heard.
And he was like, all right, well, we're not going to use you for the warrant then. He's like, we'll just make you a driver. And I was like, bro, I can't even put my vest on. He's like, we'll help you.
Yeah.
Dude, so I go to the back of my patrol car. I pull out my heavy vest. I have to have 2 guys help me put my vest on. And they're like, hey, here's your helmet. And I was like, I can't put a helmet on, dude. I can't move my head. So like I slide into this like unmarked Tahoe, and I'm like in there and I'm just driving. And I'm like, hey, bro, I can't look.
Can't check your mirrors.
I can't check my mirrors. I can't look to my right. And the guy on my right's like, hey, I'll just check your right side. He's like, just drive. And so I'm like driving to do the mission, dude, whatever. I get back and like, you need to go to the hospital and get this checked out. So I instantly call my doctor. My doctor is amazing, dude. We actually had a SWAT team doctor. We had like a doc who came down and like took care of all that, dude. Just a general practitioner in the area. So I immediately called him and was like, dude, there's something wrong. And he got me in, did an MRI on my neck, and they're like, yeah, you severely herniated your C5, C6.
Fuck, dude.
And they're like, well, it's good. We found out what's going on.
Yeah, but herniation is like worst case scenario.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, how bad is it? And like, you need to go talk to like a spine surgeon. So I knew a guy from the CrossFit gym, Story, I think is his last name. Forget his first name. He fought in the UFC for a while.
Rick Story.
Yeah. So I trained with him at CrossFit Fort Vancouver, and I knew he had his C vertebrae replaced. And so I found out he went to this doctor in Portland, and I was like, I'm going there because he was back in the ring fighting like 6 months later or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I go down and see him, and he's like, hey, you need to have surgery like immediately. He's like, I'm not saying like tomorrow, but like in the next week. And I was like, sign me up. I'm in. Like he's like, you're gonna start losing function in your arms. Like you need to do it. And
so did they replace the disc?
Yeah. So anyway, well, dude, it took like a month, man. Like, so they scheduled me there. They're like, we'll get it cleared through insurance. I'm at SWAT training like 3 weeks later, and I get a call the day before my surgery, and they're like, hey, surgery's a no-go. Insurance denied it. And I was like, what? I'm like, yeah, we'll just schedule out 2 weeks later, and we'll get you back. Anyway, 2 weeks go ahead, and they're like, hey, you're green light, come on in. It was like the next day, and I was like, all right, I'm in. So go out on medical leave, have my C5, C6 replaced with a like artificial disc. So I was out for like, well, they said they're like 8 weeks. And I was like, I think I can push it. So 6 weeks in, I mean, he was like, dude, you can't do shit for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like it needs to heal. It was over 4th of July. I had surgery June 30th, and July 4th weekend was coming up. And so I borrowed my buddy's Peloton, and I put it in my garage. And it was like 3 days later, I'm on the Peloton with my neck brace, just fucking pedaling away. I have to do something.
Yeah.
So I'm on medical leave. I go and I get cleared 6 weeks later, and he's like, hey, you're good, man. I was like, for what? And he's like, go back to doing what you want to do. And I was like, cool. So I went home and I went out and I ran 13 miles. And during the run, my left arm went completely numb. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, maybe I pushed a little too hard.
Maybe you should have ran 2 miles.
Yeah, maybe. But that's just not how I trained or who I was. So anyway, dude, I went straight back to patrol, right back on the team. Started still noticing a lot of issues in like my right thumb and my left hand, and I was like, this isn't good. That was June of 23. Made it till about December, and we were doing some vehicle interdiction training, so like vehicle pins and like hostage rescue in and out of vehicles. And I remember I was like the lead guy coming up on the passenger side door, and I'm getting out, and as I'm coming up, I'm trying to select my selector switch to fire, and I can't feel it. So I'm running on the door, and I'm fumbling with my rifle, and I can't get it, and I'm like, what the? And then I look down, and I'm like, I can't feel my thumb, and it's because I'm wearing my heavy vest with my ammo and my helmet, right? And you get this rifle slung around your neck, and they say the healing window is like 12 to 18 months or whatever for that. And I went back, now I'm like, okay, now I'm a liability to the team, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to do something. Like I can't perform what they need me to perform at the level that I need to be. So I immediately called all the team leadership. We went into the office and had a meeting, and I was like, hey, I can't do this. Like I need to step down. And they're like, well, hold on. Like, don't step down. Let's give you some time to like heal. And I was like, thanks, I appreciate it. Like, it's your spot to lose.
Yeah.
You know? And so I was like, hey, I'm not going to come to training. Like, I'm just going to like rehab. And I even changed my schedule. I went to like an early swing shift. I was like, I don't want to go work days, but I have to do something different to heal. So I swapped, and that was the beginning of 24. Yeah, I made it 3 months in. I was doing some yard work in the back of my house, and was moving like a wheelbarrow, and still had the same issues. And so I called the team leader that day, and I was like, hey man, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. Like,
so is it all stemming from that neck injury then?
Yeah, all stemming.
Fucking jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
man.
I know, dude. And I still have issues. Not as bad as I did, but like definitely down my left arm sometimes, especially when I wear my vest. anything sort of like compression on my neck or like slinging a rifle around my neck really aggravates it. A lot better now that I'm not wearing my stuff all the time,
Yeah,
obviously,
or ever again.
Yeah, or ever again.
Well, bro, and that's another thing to talk about because we did all the gnarly shit in the military and jiu-jitsu and CrossFit. There's like all these things that are just compounding on your body.
Yeah.
But you know what else fucks you up, in my opinion? Just sitting in a patrol car.
Oh, dude, way worse than
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
Like my body was falling apart.
Yeah.
In a relatively short amount of time because we work 12.5-hour shifts. And sure, you can fucking go park and step out and do 2 laps around your car just to get your body moving. But at the end of the day, you're sitting 90% of the time and it starts to fuck you up.
Yeah. Well, so I misspoke. That was 2022 when I had that neck surgery. And then, so then I stepped down on the team beginning of 23. And 23 ends up rolling by. It was June of 23. And at this point, like you were talking about your body just like falling apart. I'm like, dude, I'm falling apart. Something's happening to me. And I don't know what. And you talk about like that dark voice and like that shit that evil that comes up in you, man. And I was not in a good place. And dude, I was in so much pain. I still couldn't figure out what was going on.
And you're single at this point?
Single dude, living alone in my house.
So
no
yeah,
relationship.
like dude, that means you come home and now you're just in your head.
Dude, just in my head every day. And I was popping 2,400 milligrams of ibuprofen a day just to get through my shift.
Yeah, fuck, dude.
And
you're what, 35 at this point?
Dude, I was 33.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
still
I was like,
young.
Still super young, right? And dude, they even told me like, you're way too young to have the surgery. And I was like, well, that's, my body's seen a lot of miles. So I come back, it's June of 23. And I come off shift one night and I was like, I'm done, dude. I'm fucking done. Like, and I normally take off my gear, my boots and all my stuff. And I walked right into my master bedroom and I just laid on the floor. Didn't even take my shoes off. And I just sat there and I was like, dude, no one's going to miss you. Like all my family's back east. I don't really talk to them all that often. I got nothing here. Like all I have is this job. And, yeah, dude, I reached down, I grabbed my Glock out of into my holster and I went to unlock it from the ALS.
Your thumb went numb?
Yeah, dude, I wish. No,
Yeah.
no, dude. But it was crazy. I'm sitting there and I have my thumb on the ALS and I'm like, just do it. No one's gonna miss you. Like, you don't have anything. It's no big deal. And I remember, dude, a thought came into my head and it was, you don't fucking quit, ever. And I was like, just get up. That was like the only thing in my voice was like, in my head was just get up. And so I reach up, dude, and I had such a hard time getting off the ground. And so I reach up and I grab my side of my bed and I like yard myself up and I just like jettisoned my vest and I took my belt off and it all dropped in the middle of my bedroom floor. And I was like, I looked down at it and I was like, I will never pick that gear up again until I'm better.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't care what it costs. And I grabbed my shit and I brought it into where I normally put it. I put it all away, took a shower, popped a couple Flexeril and went to bed and woke up the next day, called my doctor and was like, I got a problem and I don't know what it is. I need help. And he's like, come on in. And I went into the agency the next day, went in to see my sergeant and I was like, hey man, I need some help. I don't know what it is. I need to figure out whatever's going on with me. And he was like, the agency was great, man. The agency has been super supportive. I have nothing but positive things to say about them. And they're like, do what you need to do. Like, absolutely. So I got out and I started working through my medical process with all the doctors and they couldn't figure it out, man. They're like scanning me. They're doing MRIs. They're doing imaging. And I get put in touch with this doctor down at Rebound. Awesome dude. And I'm not gonna say his name because he's very well known and very high up in like that area down there with like big people. So he starts doing things and he's like, hey man, I think he's like, your right glute isn't attached to your hip. And I was like, what? And he was like, dude, look. And he's using an ultrasound.
Oh, fuck.
And he was like, you see this?
The muscle detached.
He's like, do you see this ligament? And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's supposed to hold your glute onto your hip. And he was like, it's 70% torn. And he has a needle and he's like going through and he's like, see this black hole? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, that's where your tendon's supposed to be. He's like, we need to heal that. So that started this whole like prolotherapy and like healing process.
That's the first time you finally had an answer,
Dude,
though.
an answer. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like finally, I'm not crazy. There's something wrong with me. You know what I mean? Like,
So can we agree to blame CrossFit for that injury?
oh, dude, 100% CrossFit. Yeah, no, CrossFit, duty belt. You know what I mean? Like all that shit. So
Jiu-jitsu for the neck.
yeah.
CrossFit for the hip.
For the hip. So, and what's funny is that once I got an answer, I told everybody at work, and they're like, "Oh, sweet, so you broke your ass." And so everybody at work is now like, "Hey, how's your ass doing?" I'm like, "It's okay." And they're like, "All right." Yeah, I was a broke ass guy. So then, dude, that started a whole process of being on light duty. I went on light duty, finished out my medical leave. I'm still rehabbing this like injury that I have. They're like, "What do we do with him? We can't put him back on the road," because I had like restrictions with like my duty belt and all these things. So they put me back in our it's called TDU, but it's our tactical detective unit. It's there's a plainclothes street crimes unit.
Okay.
And like, hey, you're gonna go back there, help out with surveillance and like evidence collection. And I was like, cool. Well, so I start doing that, but like they give me a minivan and I'm out doing surveillance and like helping out on like warrants and stuff, you know? And anyway, one night I'm out helping out the unit and somebody calls for cover. And so I'm like, well, fuck, dude, I'm like a second away. I'm like right here. So I reach back, grab my vest, throw it on. I'm wearing my gun and like my jeans and I have my, stuff on me and I get out. Well, so we ended up going solving the problem and like a bunch of people show up and like, what the fuck's weed doing out here? Like, why? I thought you were on light duty. And I was like, I am. I have restrictions, but it doesn't mean I can't. I'm not broke, you know? Well, it started this whole thing with the agency. They're like, why are light duty dudes out here helping out patrol? And like, so it
bunch of CYA shit, which on one hand makes you understand
totally,
it too.
Totally. No, I totally understood it. And I was like, I get it. Like,
because you get in a fight and your fucking whatever detaches again, or you know what I'm saying?
Dude, absolutely. And that's why I was like, they told me like, hey, you have to stay at the precinct, right? Like you have to stay in the office.
Hey, you're grounded.
Yeah, they grounded me, dude. Right?
Get back in the fucking office.
And I was like, fine, that's cool. I can do that. And I was like, dude, I'm happy with it. Like, thank you for at least letting me still be a part of a unit and team and help out. And dude, I'll never forget. I'm driving back one day in my undercover car, and like I look up and there's this big plume of smoke on I-5, and like cars are all stopped. And I drive by and I look, and there's like a car that's like hit the guardrail. It's in the middle. It's on fire and shit. And there's like a chick running from it. And I was like, God damn it, So like I'm trying to call 911. I'm like, hey, this is Deputy so and so. I'm off, like I'm on duty, but I can't intervene. And then like I see her, she's like trying to escape, and I was like. So like I get out of my car, I throw my gear on, I put my body cam on, I run over there, I'm like I detain her, right? And anyway, the people are like, dude, you can't even like escape it. Like I'm like, dude, I know, I'm just trying to go back to the office. Well, so it turns into, hey, all light duty is just going to be at the desk. Like we can't have people out here anymore. Like it's just going to be at the desk. Mm-hmm. So they moved me to the desk for 5 months. And at this point, they're like, hey, it's something wrong with your hips. We need to figure out what's going on with you. Dude, nobody could figure it out. They sent me to a trauma surgeon who was going to put like 3 bolts in my SI joints to like lock my pelvis together. And I was like, dude, do it. I don't care. Like, what? Just get me out of this pain. Like, I need to do something. And then I'm still working through the prolotherapy stuff. And he was like, I found a doctor down in Arizona who was like, no, you don't want that. You want to do these like new technique with like these like special screws. And I was like, that sounds less invasive. Like, let's do that. So well, by the way, I got to go back. So when I met with that trauma surgeon, they did a bunch of scans of my pelvis and hips. And he walked in, the dude's really well known, and he circles my hips and goes, hey, that's a really big problem for you. And you're going to want to get it fixed, but your pelvis is like a bigger deal. Not putting 2 and 2 together. Mm-hmm. And so I took it was a printout, and I took a picture of it with my phone. And I was like, thanks. And so I leave the meeting. I start working down this process to get my hips done. At this time, I had already met the guy who was helping me with like prolotherapy and stuff. And so he, dude, I never forget it. I was working with the marshals, and we were like tracking down this dude who was selling guns and body armor out of like a RV. And I found the RV, and I'm sitting on surveillance and see the guns. Anyway, I had an appointment, so I had to leave that surveillance to go to this appointment. And I'm sitting in there on the table, and he's like doing like shockwave and some stuff on me. And he kicks his assistant out. He's like, you need to leave. She's like, okay. And he sits down. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting on the table, and he sits down on the floor and looks at me and goes, I don't know why, but you were meant to come into my life for some reason bigger than this.
This is the surgeon.
Yeah, he's not a surgeon. He's a Well, if I say what he does, it'll give him away. But yeah, he's not a surgeon.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not a surgeon.
Why is it top secret?
Because some of the stuff that he believes in and does is against Western medicine.
Good, bro. We should give him all the shout outs that we can give him.
So he looks at me and we start talking. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And he was like, "I have somebody for you to go talk to." And he was like, "I know you're a cop, so you can't do a lot of stuff." But he was like, "You need to go talk to her." And I was like, "Who is it?" And he was like, "She's a shaman."
Okay, fuck yeah.
And so that's
now you're coming into my realm,
bro. Dude, it started me down this whole different world, man.
I see why you're protecting him now, because if people that are attached to a Western medicine facility or treatment are sending people to shamans, that can rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah. And dude, he was the first one to tell me, he's like, "Listen, I believe in Western medicine. I think it's a really big thing and it helps a lot of people, but like we're missing something here."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Go see her, it'll help me." Dude, him and I are awesome friends right now. I mean, I've been to some of his things with his family and watched his kid play music. Like it's him and I are homies. Anyway, fast forward, like that started me down that like spiritual journey to where I started meeting with her. We did like tobacco work and some other things that really helped started kind of putting a lot of puzzle pieces in line for me to where I started thinking like I was growing, man. Spiritually, my conscience was growing.
Were you doing hape where they shoot it up your nose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was,
I don't know if I'd describe it as awesome.
dude, no, it was awful. It was
awful.
Yeah, but awesome in the sense that like, man, like it doesn't solve problems, but it helped me like think through problems, right? And like, and it just like I was like, okay.
Well, so they say hape is to ground you.
Yeah, exactly. And I was because the main thing he was like, "Dude, what's wrong?" And I was like, "I feel dead inside. I'm empty. I can't feel."
So let me ask you this then. Obviously, you had certain physical ailments, but mind, body, and spirit are all intertwined.
Yes.
So if you're feeling dead spiritually, your body just started to decay, huh?
Yes. And that was my first meeting with this lady. She was like, "Your body deteriorating as fast as it is telling you to slow down. And you're not, the reason why you feel empty and dead inside is like your energy is being sucked out of you doing these things."
Wow.
Dude, first meeting, and it like totally floored me. And then I think
because you know she's right,
dude. I knew instantly. She was right.
And I've talked about this with some of the different ceremonies that I do. Is like the truth has a certain frequency to it.
Yeah.
And when you were given undeniable truths, there's no longer two sides of this discussion. It's just like, fuck, she got me.
Dude, she did. And dude, forever changed my outlook on everything. And to the point of where I started going to work and being like, these people are just sucking the energy out of me.
Well, bro, once you peek behind that curtain,
dude, I just couldn't do it anymore.
There's no going back.
Yeah, dude, no, I know. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So anyway, fast forward. I'm like now doing this, and I'm like working on this like spiritual journey on myself, trying to like get in touch with like something, dude. I want to feel again, but I'm also have these like really major medical issues. And anyway, in the course of me scheduling this back surgery down in Arizona, I send it to this guy. I'm like, "Hey, all my medical records need to go down to Arizona." I was scheduled for surgery April 9th, and this was March. And I go and see this energy worker who was supposed to help me move like energy back into my heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is fucking weird, but I'll do it. You know, like I need some help. And in the course of that, she's trying to move energy, and she like finishes and she goes, "What's up with your hips?" And I go, "Nothing. I'm having back surgery next month." And she's like, "It's your hips." She's like, "I can't move any energy from your hips. It's like all of your energy is
locked in there.
She's like, "I can't move anything to your heart." And I was like, that's weird. I was like, this lady must be crazy, because like there's nothing wrong with my hips. The next week, in the course of me sending all that paperwork down, I text that doctor that photo that I took from my initial consult with the trauma surgeon. And I was like, "Hey, make sure this goes down too." And he immediately calls me and he's like, "Bro, it's so simple, we've overlooked it." He's like, "You have FAI. It's femoral acetibular or acetibular impingement." And he was like, "You need to come in right now so we can do some tests." And I was like, "I'm free." And so I drove down to Rebound. He sticks this long ass needle this big, dude, into my hip, into my hip socket, and injects this like Novocaine numbing agent. And my whole left leg goes numb, and my back starts spasming. The whole back just. And I look up at him, I tell him, and he just starts laughing and goes, "Found it." And he does my right side, and same thing. And he's like, "How do you?" I stood up, and he's like, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "Dude, I feel like I'm fucking 12 years old again." You know, like I was crying.
Wow.
And he was like, "Let's do some manipulations." My left hip had 0 degrees of internal rotation. He's like, it was locked. He's like, "I can't even move it." And he was like, "Listen, I could probably get in trouble for saying this, but there's nobody here at this facility that I would trust to do any sort of surgery." He's like, "You need hip surgery, not back. Cancel your back surgery." He's like, "Your hips are fucked." So I canceled my back surgery, and I was like, "Where do I go? Like, you guys are supposed to be the specialists out here in the whole Northwest." And he was like, "Let me find you a place." He gets back to me a couple days later. He's like, "You need to go here. It's the Stedman Clinic, and it's like where all the pro athletes go. It's in Vail, Colorado."
Okay.
And he was like, "They're the best hip doctor in the country. It's Dr. Philippon." He's like, "Go see them." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I call him, and I'm calling a couple different places because I'm like, we'll always have a PACE plan, right? Like primary, alternative, contingency, emergency. And that was my primary. Well, they call me back. It's like May 15th of last year. And they're like, "Hey, we have an opening day after Memorial Day. Can you get here?" And I was like, "Yep." I go to my sergeant, and I was like, "Hey, I'm taking PDO. I'm done. I'm having surgery." And he was like, "Go." So I packed my truck, dude, and I drove all the way out to Colorado over the weekend. And they went into my left hip. They were just, all they knew was that the hip bone had like, was called a cam, and it was huge. It was massive. And that was all they knew. They couldn't see anything else because like the hip joint was all completely locked. So they when they opened me up,
So it's kind of exploratory surgery.
yeah.
Just seeing
And
what's
basically,
going
I
on.
signed paperwork saying basically anything wrong, fix it.
Yeah.
And they did some scans, and they came in. Before I went to surgery, he like touched the side of my hip, and I almost jumped off the table. And he's like, "Yeah, you got a massive burst on your hip. Like, we need to remove that too." And I was like, "Do it." And so they opened me up. They're like, "Surgery's gonna be 2 to 3 hours. It's pretty routine. We're just gonna shave some bone down. You should have some movement back." And I was like, "Cool." Well, I wake up and it's nighttime, and the surgeon's there, and he starts laughing, and he's like, "That was a little more complex than we thought." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, we removed 17 parts of bone from your femoral head." He's like, "The pincer that had grown from my pelvis over that to protect that injury area had broken off. And so I'd broken a piece of my pelvis off, and it was like floating in my hip joint."
What was this from? Do they know?
Dude, I have no idea. This is that same
Fucking
injury.
rucking and jumping out of airplanes
Dude,
and all that shit.
Overuse, man. So
Okay.
when I asked what it was from, they're like, the biggest indicators are heavy loads on your hips,
Yep.
long distance running, and prolonged sitting. And I was like, check.
You're
You know
like,
what I mean?
"Oh,
Like,
you just described my whole
yeah,
life."
that's what I said. I was like, that's who I've been my entire adult life. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so they went in, tore my labrum 200 degrees on my left side. And I was bone on bone. My femoral head kind of rubbed down. So they did this microfracture procedure where they drill into your bone and like that basically regrows some of your cartilage. And they put like 4 anchor pins in and closed it up and to like sew it all back up.
And that was a year ago?
That was May of last year.
How do you feel now?
It's ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's ended up ultimately why I left the sheriff's office. And so he looks at me and he's like, "Hey, based on what's on your left, you got to come back and do your right." And I was like, "When?" And he was like, 7 weeks. And
So you went and did that?
yeah. So
Okay.
I went back. I was like, "Sure." And so sure shit, they opened me up and tore my labrum on my right side 180 degrees from the 9 to the 3 anchor pins in to sew it back up. And finally after surgery, I was like, "Dude, thank God I'm not crazy." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
finally I'm not crazy. There was something wrong with me. And like, no wonder why I felt weak and why I couldn't run. My run times had dropped and why I couldn't like move. Dude, I was like on patrol trying to go upstairs and I'm like grabbing railings to like pull myself up.
Well, thank God you got out of the military.
Dude,
Can you imagine military
No,
doctors
dude.
addressing all these problems?
No, dude, no, there's no way. And the only way I was even able to find it was because I went to the surgeon.
Yeah.
You know?
You'd have been fucked, dude.
Yeah. So
once you had that second surgery, you knew it's time to change my profession.
yeah, man. So it was the neck, the hips, and at this point I was like, okay, I'm starting to have a lot of injuries. I'm starting to not really necessarily believe in the mission of what I'm doing as a cop anymore.
Well, and plus you're working with your shaman now.
Dude, yeah. I'm starting to get in touch with myself spiritually and like figuring all that out. I'm making a lot of connections. My personal growth was through the roof, like having conversations with my father again. Like, I'm now dating this like amazing woman who believes in all that. Dude, just like, dude,
But bro, when you start to put it together, the universe will align with
dude,
you.
Dude, exactly. And that's as soon as you put it out there, like I'll give you a great example. One of the exercises, because one of the issues I had a lot was like relationships, dude. I was like, I was burning through women, like, and again, I couldn't feel anything, dude. I had 2 days off a week, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna schedule 2 dates.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like, and she was like, I'm like, dude, I'm really struggling. I can't make a connection. I'm having issues with like commitment and stuff. She's like, well, make a list of everything that you want and write it down and put it out there. And I did. I have it in my notebook. It's October 9th of last year. And I went on this first date with her on the 25th. And dude, every single fucking thing on that list.
you manifested her, bro.
Dude, you ever heard of the Monroe Institute?
Bro, have I heard of the Monroe Institute?
Dude, bro.
I'm flying out there to do a documentary that's getting picked up by A&E or History Channel at the end of May.
That's fucking badass, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I was just the other day.
I read Robert Monroe's book. I think it's called Journey of Souls when I was a little boy.
No shit.
And bro, then I went into the army, and I've talked about this. It's fucking preposterous because and again, we already discussed it. I don't regret what I did, but it is a different program you're running.
Yeah.
And now 30 years later, I'm coming back to the astral projections, remote viewing. And I was an atheist through all that shit because I think being an atheist is actually easier. I'm just this fucking skeleton covered in a meat suit, and when I get shot, it's over.
Yep, that's exactly how I felt all through my 20s when I was in the army.
Yeah, dude. Because, and it's funny because I remember guys that were spiritual. Like, dude, how the fuck can you be on the streets of Ramadi doing this mission and not have any spirituality? It's like because when the light switch gets turned out, it's a wrap.
Yeah, that's it, dude.
And I don't care.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like, fuck, dude. Come full circle,
dude.
now.
No, for sure. And dude, I feel like it's a superpower that I now have that I feel like I'm just like, dude. And
bro,
dude,
we'll talk for another 2 hours.
Yeah, dude. I know.
Because, dude, like, do you know where the core of manifestation comes from? Is sacred geometry.
I did not know that. Because
like, there's actually a documentary. It's on Gaia. Which if most people don't have Gaia, but if you have Amazon Prime, you have Gaia because you can. It's added in as a package. Go watch a fucking documentary called Sacred Geometry.
I'm going to,
because it talks about how really we can understand two of the physical planes that human beings occupy. Right, like obviously we're here, or things we can touch and see and feel. Then there's also the electromagnetic field, which is like okay, we can prove that exists.
Yeah.
If you put two magnets against each other and they push back, like, okay, we can feel that, right? But can you see that?
No.
Well, there's also planes where now it's like, and I'm going to butcher this for you guys to have a good understanding, but he's talking, here Greg is again talking about shit he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, right? But there's a lot of different planes, and part of the manifestation is understanding, like, we can manipulate energy with thoughts and belief. And if you can manipulate energy is the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
And that's where manifestation comes into play. Bro, I know it's true too.
Yeah, it is, dude. It's 100. It's one, dude. And that's what led me from law enforcement to this new career that I'm. This new.
Bro,
business.
you can't be in. I love this, bro, because I didn't know that this was where the conversation was going. You can't run the law enforcement program, the soldier program, the fucking I hate my job at Target program. Once you've peeked behind the curtain and you're like, oh, this is who we are.
Yep.
You can't do it anymore, man.
I know. And dude, that's why. So I had this injury and I'm working through all this stuff and I'm starting to figure shit out. I'm like, oh, dude, like in the background, I'm running this business that I had started with my buddies, all who were also on SWAT with me. And
that's what you're doing full time now
that's
for employment?
Yeah.
Okay.
And which I'm sure we'll get to, but so yeah, so I have this hip surgeries and I'm like trying to nurse myself back, and there's that little piece of me. I'm like, you can go back and do it. Like you can do it. And so yeah,
even if you could,
do I want to?
Do you want to?
And ultimately, yeah, that was the conclusion I came to. So I went back in January, went back to night swings, dude. I was like, I'm gonna do it. And my first shift back, I go, I can't do this.
Yeah. But you've ascended past it.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds kind of arrogant to say, but you can't unsee what you've seen.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean like a physical, like a sight or a vision of something, but just an overall energetic understanding of like, dude, that's a low vibration existence.
That's exactly it, dude. Yeah.
And police work is a low vibration existence. And that's not casting shade at cops, because you might be a high vibration person, but by nature of what you're doing, you're surrounded by low vibration activity
all day, every
and
day.
it's draining on you.
Well, so what, dude, I was feeling great. Those 8 months I had off for the hip surgeries, I was like, dude, I'm coming back. Like, I'm doing awesome. And the day I went back, every issue I had before my surgeries came back.
Well, and there you go.
Pain in my hips, dude.
Yep.
Pain in my back being locked up. I'll never forget, I FaceTimed the chick that I'm seeing now, and she's like, are you okay? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm in so much pain, and I can't do this anymore. And
so the spiritual component of this wasn't letting you fucking, it's like, hey, you already started to figure it out. Now you think you're going back.
Yeah.
And so it might have even been your own subconscious that's like, hey, we're going to highlight some of these things that we thought we got you away from. And if you go back, you're going to be right back here.
And that's exactly what it was, man. And that's, I tried, man. I was like, I'm going to give it, I talked to my doctor and PT. They're like, give it a month, see how you're doing. Your body hasn't used to that yet. You'll reacclimate. I went in for more MRIs, and dude, fucking what's crazy? They're like, your back got better. You know what I mean? They're like, they're like, dude, it's night and day different from your last scans. Like, I don't know how that happens, but like, you got better.
Because I'm fucking healing myself.
Yeah, dude, right. No,
that's why.
Exactly. And
well, bro, and it's like the physical body can heal through the use of positive energy, self-belief. Like, bro, you're going to geek out on Gaia.
Oh, dude.
Because they talk about all this kind of stuff. But it's like Ibogaine. Mm-hmm. Have you looked into Ibogaine at all?
Oh yeah, dude. I've looked into all of it. I just haven't, I was a cop.
Yeah.
For
because Ibogaine can actually rewire the nerves and increase your neuroplasticity in your brain. It's like, it's not just, oh, I do this plant medicine and now I have a better understanding. It's like, no, dude, having the better understanding empowers your fucking mind to physically heal the body. Yeah. And that's no longer woo-woo shit, dude. You know, I've talked about it on the show before. My buddy Tony Cowden, it's funny we're talking about this because I reached out to him today to connect someone with his Ibogaine clinic. And he got blown up in Mosul, Iraq, and had a bunch of nerve damage. His right hand didn't work anymore. One Ibogaine treatment, full function of his right hand. It healed the nerves.
Yeah.
And that's a homie. That's not some weird YouTube story that I watched, you know?
Yeah. Well, what's crazy too is like I have these conversations all the time, and I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm crazy.
Well, we are crazy.
Right?
Life is crazy,
dude. But
you lean into the crazy, it feels good,
dude. No, it does. I'm like, man, there's some. I feel like I'm being tapped into something that I haven't. That I'm just. It's like elevating me, dude. And it gets crazier. So, anyway,
let me look at the time real quick.
Yeah.
It's 4. We are good until, let's say, I got to make sure the doors are open because the gym opens at 4. And then we're good to go probably another half hour.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll make it quick. So
gym is open, so we're good.
So I'm trying to come back. I'm like, I go from swing shift. I'm like, this isn't working. Maybe I'll go to days. Just trying to hold on. And then I've been a long time, ever since you started the podcast, I've been listening and listened to a lot of stuff Tyler does. And I was like, these fucking rune things are kind of cool. I don't know. I'm going to explore. Dude. So I buy myself some runes a couple months ago.
Fuck yes. Dude.
Right?
Yeah.
dude.
I can't wait
so
to talk about
I
the runes.
pull it out, dude, and I throw one. It was algaz, I think is, I don't know. I'm still. Algaz, yeah.
Yeah, with the 3 prongs at the top.
Yeah. And I
Rune of protection.
Yes. And when I threw it, I threw the intention of like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And that's what came. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go back to work and figure that out. Right. And it's not working. And fast forward to a couple weeks ago, I go and I'm coming to that conclusion. I'm like, I got to leave. I can't. I was like, physically, I can't do this job anymore.
Bro, you can't start following the runes.
You do.
And be a cop.
Yeah, bro.
Those 2 things are mutually exclusive.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I started down that path. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, dude, fucking universe, come on, man, give me a sign. Like, give me a sign of something. Like, I make sure I'm doing the right thing here. Dude, the business that I had was going, was kind of stagnant. Like, just not really like going anywhere. Just kind of stale, and like making money, but not really doing as well as I want it to. And it was 3 weeks ago, and I go to move my my patrol car over my driveway so I can get my other vehicle out. And I go to unlock it, and it's dead. And I was like, that's weird. So I go grab the other fob, unlock it, nothing. So I pull out my truck. I try to jump it, won't jump. So I call my sergeant. I was like, hey, my patrol car's dead. Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, pull all your shit out and get it towed to the shops. You know, like, we'll figure out a car later. So that's what I did. I call a tow, comes over. He somehow was able to, he used like some sort of like super jump pack. He's like, that's a dead cell or whatever. And so he gets the car running, pull all my stuff out of it, and he takes it. Off it goes. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just laughing.
Like, there's my sign.
Yeah. I was like, there's my sign. And I go, okay. So I walked inside of my office, and I pulled out the runes. And I was like, I set an intention. I was like, should I be doing this? Like, what's the next thing for me? Like, do I keep down this path, or do I start something? Do I jump through that door with no unknown, right?
Yeah.
Have the courage to do that and the fear, right? It's not, I don't remember where I hearing it or heard it, but it's like, if it scares you or creates fear, run towards it. And I was so scared, man. Dude, who wouldn't be losing that $150,000 a year, dude, 30 days off? Like, who wouldn't be afraid of losing that? And I'd spent my whole career getting up to this pinnacle. Like, why would I let that go? But I knew I didn't have 17 more years left in me. There's no physical way I could do it. So I threw the rune, and it came back Ingwaz, which is new beginning. And dude, I almost like cried, but I rolled it up. I put it on my desk. I wrote my resignation letter on my computer. I texted HR, and I was like, you in the office? And she was like, yep. And I was like, I'll be down in 30 minutes.
Bro, you resigned because of Ingwaz.
Yeah.
I love this shit.
Yeah,
dude.
bro. I resigned. I went down there, and I was like, listen, I physically can't do this job anymore. I'm resigning under medical conditions. I had tried to do the medical retirement process in Washington State. My benefit was $327 pre-tax a month. So I laughed at that, and I was like, that's not going to happen. So I need to resign, you know?
Yeah.
So I went down, resigned. They tried to give me like a backgrounds or like a detective job. And I was like,
it's all the same system.
Yeah, no,
bro.
I was like, no, I'm good. No, thanks. And I was like, here's my 2 weeks. She's like, well, do you want to work? And I was like, no, I don't know if I don't have to. You know, I have enough sick and PDO. But just burn that. And she was like, okay. And dude, I walked out, and I felt like I had just taken that 1,000-pound ruck and just jettisoned that bitch.
Yeah.
Dude, I walked out of that building, and I was like, dude, I could breathe. Yeah. And it was crazy when I drove down there. I was listening to the podcast with you and Sean about the OBE and shit.
Yeah.
Dude, I was driving down to do it, and I was like, no, man, this is the right thing to do. I'm just listening to what the world's telling me to do, right? And so I get home, and I'm like happy. And I'm like, dude, this is good. I'm scared, but I'm like, this is a good step for me. And I was like, you know what? You should go to bed and sleep in a little bit tomorrow. Take it easy. And I was like, no. I remember Andy Frisella talks about, by the way. It's like, it's always day one. And so I was like, dude, tomorrow's day one for me in my business. And I woke up the next day, and I just at 5:30 hit the gym, started doing my thing. And by about noon that day, one of my employees calls me, and he's like, hey, we need a proposal over to this company. They really want us. And I was like, okay. So he tells me what it's for. Later that day, the day after I resigned, we signed a contract worth 7 figures.
See, bro, you're steering your own ship now.
Yeah. No, dude, no, I know.
You are.
Yeah. And bro, I sat there, and I just couldn't fucking believe it. I was like, all it took was for me to leave this and to like jump through that door. And the universe was telling me, jump, and like giving me all the signs to do it. And like and again, who knows how long that'll last, right? Like they could change contracts or go with whoever later on, whatever. But
who cares though?
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't care. I don't even
now
care.
That you know
that
you can steer your own ship.
Yeah.
There's no longer fear attached to it.
Dude, exactly.
Dude, I literally, I just told you before we started recording that I was up in Bellingham with a lawyer proposing a real estate deal, you know? And it's like, well, this is the risk, and these are some concerns. And I said, you know, I'm different than most people because I don't fucking care. And that's not like, oh, I'm a badass or like I'm hard. No, it's like I told him, I said, you know what? I'm doing this real estate deal because I was called to do it.
Yeah.
Not because I think it's going to be this huge financial opportunity or the best investment. I'm called to do it because it's helping people that I care about. And I know I'm a person that can help them.
Yeah.
And if it falls through and I go broke as a result, I'll fucking move to Thailand and live on my fucking disability.
Exactly.
And when you don't have fear attached to your decision process, sets you free, man.
It does, dude. That's the thing. I feel free.
I love this, dude.
Dude, so free and like being controlled. I mean, dude, now I'm running, and for people who are listening, like me and 2 other SWAT guys a couple years ago realized kind of where law enforcement was going, and we started kind of out of a unique story that could be an hour in and of itself, but started like a private security company.
Okay.
So we have like different programs. We have a static program and an EP program. So I have 33 employees.
That's fucking big time, dude.
Yeah, bro. We have full augmentation for a lot of the big, I can't share with who they are, but like all the big name companies down around the Portland metro area for like EP executive protection work. And then I have static sites all over Portland and Seattle. Looking at expanding out to Idaho this year.
And bro, you're a good dude. All the guys that have ever crossed paths with you professionally know they can count on you.
Yeah.
Your reputation speaks for itself, so you can't lose.
Yeah. Dude, and that's the thing. My purpose has now changed. Like I get to provide an opportunity for people to like, for their jobs, to feed their families.
Yeah.
And like, dude, I mean, all of our employees who come work for us, man, I just did a site visit the other day for one of our new guys that we just hired, and we show up and he was like, holy fuck. He's like, you guys are awesome. He's like, by the way, your reputation now here is incredible. He's like, it's hard to get a job with you guys. I'm like, yeah, because we have standards and we fire people a lot. Because if you don't meet the standard, we get rid. If you don't meet our company values, you're gone. And he's,
and bro, that's not being a dick.
No,
that's preserving the values of your company.
Yeah, the standards.
Yeah.
Right. And he was like, not only can you guys like run a company, but you guys show up to events and you also do the work. He's like, what other companies do we go where the owners are showing up and like doing the work with us? And he's like, that's awesome. That's what makes you guys different. He's like, you're not just some other company like pushing us out there and making us do whatever.
Yeah.
So it's been super rewarding.
Takes you back to your commander not willing to work a patrol shift.
Dude, exactly, man. And like that's the thing, right? Like we've had issues. I mean, as we've grown and expanded the company, I mean, last year we had one where it was like a site was going dark. It's called dark hours, where we had a guy who called out sick, and so the shift was being unfilled. And I was like, well, who's next? Well, I can't do it. Who's next? I can't do it. Came all the way up to me. And I was like, guess I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Put my shit on, dude. I drove down there to some warehouse, sat at a warehouse for like 6 hours, waited for the relief. And dude, the company was like, wait, what? You can't have the boss doing that. And I was like, no, that's fucking what's required to win and required to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's the standard.
Well, plus if you tell your men or show your men that you're unwilling to do that,
absolutely.
What message does that say? You know what it says is that my success isn't that important.
Exactly. Well, dude, it's not about me, man. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, I haven't taken barely any money from the company. Like I did a little bit when I was on medical leave and not getting paid and I needed to pay my bills. But like everything I have goes back to my people. It goes back to our company growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, I went from making $150,000 a year to my salary now. My business is $39,000. You know, because like that money's going to my people. It's going to hire other people.
But check this out too, though. As you reallocate the profits of the company into benefiting the company, your employees, the long run is going to be you generating your own wealth.
Yeah.
Never think that that's a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Because as long as you're doing the right things and you're enriching people's lives and you're a force for good, you can get rich too, man.
Yeah. Well, and again, is that nice? Yes. Obviously, that's the end goal of, you know what I mean? Any business is to make money, but I want to provide an awesome service. I want to build a reputation in an industry that's really struggling and having a hard time. And we can change it. And there's room in there. And dude, for as long as mankind's been around, there's always been security.
Yeah, of course.
Always gonna be people. And dude, I sit there and I look at my paychecks that I write my employees. I have guys on my books that make more money than I made as a cop every 2 weeks.
Fuck yeah.
Which is awesome, dude.
It's
like
awesome.
Seeing
dude.
that, bro, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. That 22-year-old kid who needs help, man, dude, good, man. Good for you. And like follow the standards and we can help you. And that's the conversation I've been having with a lot of my owners because, dude, we come from a very different world. And I'm like, hey, our role now as people and owners of this business is to mentor these people and show them how to win. Like, because there's just some we have range days. We have guys that like, we have all this, we have all our own in-house training and people get frustrated with like the level of people are at. And I'm like, listen, they look up to us as the people to get them to the next level.
Yeah.
And like, that's our job now. Like take pride and ownership in that. And like, let's do this.
Well, if you ever I mean, you already mentioned expanding Idaho and Seattle and shit. I have a range 10 minutes from here.
Love to come out here, dude.
If we could ever support your mission, just my range is your range.
Yeah. Dude,
you know?
same, dude. We have one that a buddy of mine lets us rent out. It's a private range out in like Cougar, and yeah, same, dude. Anything you need, but yeah, we actually got a little.
Oh, it's gift time.
Yeah, a little gift for you from the company.
Nice.
Appreciate you letting us come out and share my story. So that's one of our team hats.
Nice.
That we have.
Dude, this is a whole bag of gifts.
Yeah, dude. It's just a company shirt that we have some swag for you.
Yeah, but it's next level. You're a t-shirt snob like me.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Yeah. It's just some stickers. That is a my partnered up with Red King Blades. I think it's the G10 tool. So they work.
Can
with
I get
us.
this through airport security?
Yes.
Carbon fiber.
Yep.
There we go.
Yep. It's it'll get through all the security stuff that you need. Dude, again, all of our EP guys, there's a lot of work that we do that can't be armed, and so guys will still take that stuff in. But yeah, we got they partnered with us for the company colors. And that's one of our coins. So that's actually when I had them redesigned, I wanted to stay in the tradition of like the military and law enforcement. But, we had our company coins made, and then I wanted them to be a little more like special. So I had them done in 1 ounce silver. So
oh wow,
yeah, they
so
actually.
If I ever go broke, I can hawk this.
You know, so
for what's silver at $29 or something?
Yeah, or 30 or something like that. But
well, how do you say your company name?
RX.
RX.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're RX Group. All the owners and co-founders, all from the same agency, all on SWAT together.
Nice. Well, okay, so I know we got to wrap this up because we're at 3 hours, but I want you. It's going to go right there on the coin board. You've kind of already given an overview of what the company does and what it's about, but inevitably, if someone's going to hear this and be interested in either hiring you guys for your services or maybe working for you guys, can we put a link, like your website, on the show notes below? If people want to reach out to you on either end of that spectrum to connect you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously, do you want me to add your Instagram as well? Is that some private ass shit?
I haven't had social media for years. I got rid of it because
lucky you, man.
Well, dude, during the BLM stuff down in Portland, they were finding people, and like actually our house was tagged.
Jesus,
they came out, and so dude, I got a call from my wife one day, and she's crying, and so anyway, so our agency.
I'm sure that had nothing to do with her choice to say I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, right. So our agency actually paid for all of us to get our stuff scrubbed from the internet. And so I completely got off social media. But yesterday I just started a LinkedIn account. So most of our business is done like B2B.
LinkedIn is the one to use for professional.
Yeah, I was gonna say most of the stuff we do is like business to business.
Okay. I'll just put your company's website.
Yeah, and dude, I can give you my email address. People are welcome to reach out via email if they have any questions or want to connect. Anybody in the Portland metro area, dude. Like, I'm at a point in my life now where I want to connect with good people and build just a network of awesome dudes, man. And like but here's the thing, who want to grow and live a life of excellence and add value to their communities. Like you talk about low vibration, man. I got no interest in doing some of this other stuff with these guys. Like, no, man. Like, if it doesn't add any benefit to me, dude, I've started saying no to a lot of things where I'm just like, I get invited to stuff and I'm like, nah. Like
it's funny because I don't even have the desire to really like go be a part of a bunch of different shit. Like, oh, hey, like it's the football game. Yeah, I won't be there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I got enough shit to do with people that I enjoy sharing time and space with. It's like, this is what I do now. Yeah. And this gym is a big part of it. Mm-hmm. You know, like this is my space where I get to do all those things that you're talking about. And I'm excited to see you finding yours, bro, because this is the beginning. Yeah, dude, it is the beginning. And here's the thing, man. I hope it doesn't come across like me trash talking my agency because I don't have anything bad to say about them, man. Like it's a good place. Policing in general is struggling. It's going to continue to struggle. It just was no longer something that, well, one, medically, it just didn't allow me to do it, but like it no longer fit me. Yeah. And it no longer suited me. Well, dude, and that's what I always say, because I talk about this often, obviously, with my path, which is, there's parallels between your path. It's like, dude, I will never talk shit on the profession of law enforcement because we need it. Yeah, absolutely. But I can also be honest with myself and be like, hey, I think it's a young man's game.
Yeah.
I think if you want to run and gun and you want to experience it and you do it from 25 to 35, and now you start having that voice inside of you saying it's time to walk away, man, there's no dishonor in that.
No, no,
Like you did your time, you got to experience that. You probably helped a lot of people through that process. And if you have a calling to hang your fucking bags up and move on to something else, go do that.
Yeah.
The worst thing that I hear from cops is guys that get trapped in it. And I don't think it ever gets better after that.
It doesn't. That's what I hear from everybody who are all, I'm still super close with, man. It's, you talk to them and like, do you enjoy this? And they're like, no, I hate it.
Yeah.
They're like, it's just a paycheck. And
bro, this is
but
our
I'm stuck.
lives.
That's what I'm, but that's the thing, man. Since I started that spiritual journey, I'm like, dude, I sit there in my office and I have a weekly life calendar that I keep checking off every week. And I sit there and I'm like, dude, our most valuable resource is time.
Yeah.
And I'm losing time every day. And I have to start doing things for me that, one, give me back more of my time, and two, make that time that I am sacrificing worth it. And my message out there to everybody who's a cop or struggling or dealing with all the stuff that I just kind of talked about, because everybody's different, but like, dude, there's more to your life than just policing. And I talked to these guys, man, and I had a very, very tough conversation with somebody a couple weeks ago. And I looked at him and I was like, is this all you really want to do? And he was like, no, man, I don't really enjoy it anymore, but it's just who I am. And dude, I looked at him and I felt so sorry for him, because I was like, dude, you're one injury, one call, one OIS, one complaint away from it all being taken away.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you have got to come up. You talked about it on your podcast with Bedros, I think. It's like, you've got to start coming up with a plan B now, because it'll be taken away from you before you know it. And for me, it was an injury, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was taken away from a medical reason, but like, it could be something else, dude. Who knows? Like,
well, and it comes down to believing in yourself, because like whoever that was is like, well, this is who I am. Well, if you tell yourself that's all you are, that's your worth, that's your value, guess what? That's all you are.
Exactly.
That's your worth. That's your value. But if you tell yourself this was a fucking great experience, and now I'm going to go become this, and I'm going to set some short-term and long-term goals that steer the ship towards this.
Yeah.
Guess what? You keep chipping away at whatever this is, you become this.
Exactly.
That's just how it works.
I know. Yeah. And that's the way I see it, dude. I have as soon as I left, man, I made a vision board for my next 10 years and like what I want, where I'm going to go, because I truly believe in it. And dude, it's been a wild ride. Again, I'm fortunate I got to go work for an awesome agency. I got to do everything at the highest level I could do in law enforcement. I left nothing on the table. And it was just time for me to walk away. And yeah, dude, the runes got me.
The runes got you. Have you done a heart ceremony yet?
No, but I want to.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up, and then we'll talk off air, and that'll be that, bro. It's another one of the big steps.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for coming up, dude.
Of course, bro. Thanks for having me.
3+ hours long show. Maybe we'll release this over 2, part 1 and part 2. That might make the most sense. But dude, as soon as you reached out and I sensed your energy, I saw that you were making the shift. I was like, come up and talk about it, bro, because it's important.
Yeah.
These podcasts are important because the majority of men are still in that fearful place, afraid to take that next step. And the more people they see and hear do it, it gives those feelings of, man, I'm meant for more. I'm supposed to be doing something different. It gives those feelings power. It gives them validity, because the other side of that coin is being stuck on that hamster wheel, retiring at 57, your heart blows up, and that was your fucking journey.
Yeah.
That ain't it, bro.
And it's not, and I looked ultimately at the end of my life of what I want, and I go, do I want to be broken 55 years old and just like with a pension? And I was like, no,
fuck no.
I want more than that. So I'm going after it.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man.